We have a quorum, and we will now begin our meeting with the pledge. We will now begin with comments from Dr. Merrill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and the public. I'll start tonight with great news about a major grant award that will support the social and emotional well-being of our preschool students. The John Rex Endowment has awarded our Office of Early Learning more than $400,000 to coach teachers in the social and emotional foundations for the early learning pyramid model. This research-based framework, which can also be found in other school districts across the nation, ultimately will become the standard in all of our preschool classrooms. We know that when students have the tools to self-regulate and problem-solve, challenging behaviors and suspensions are reduced, and they're able to spend their valuable time on learning. This program will equip our preschool students with social and emotional competencies as they enter kindergarten, setting them on a path to academic success. The John Rex Endowment also provided $60,000 to the Wake Up and Read Literacy Initiative. I'm grateful for the ongoing support of the John Rex Endowment as they continue to invest in the future of our students. Congratulations to Green Hope High School seniors Samar Issa and Jordan Adams on their selection to the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. Samar, a baritone saxophone player and brass section leader, was one of only 125 students nationwide chosen to play in the Bowl's marching band. Wide receiver Jordan Adams, who is committed to play for UNC next season, was one of only 100 football players selected to play in the game. And Green Hope was one of only a handful of high schools nationwide to have representatives in both the band and on the team. Samar and Jordan were recognized last week during a ceremony led by a delegation from the All-American Bowl. The game will be played January 6th in San Antonio, Texas, and broadcast on NBC. I'm certain these outstanding students will continue to represent their school well and have promising futures. Finally, tonight, I'd like to thank WRAL reporter Brian Schrader and meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner for visiting the students who produce the daily news program at Walnut Creek Elementary School. Fifth graders Sune Smith, Jasmine Calderon Gomez, Tayshawn Smith, Fata Mbe, and Yahir Villarro de Les plan and run all aspects of the morning news program. Their dedication earned them a visit from the WRAL on-air personalities who shared some tricks of the trade. Those will come in handy as Walnut Creek recently received a 4Cs grant that will enable all fifth graders to take on the real-life roles of meteorologists, journalists, and television broadcast crews. They will work in groups to become a news broadcasting station to explore and report on weather around the world. I invite you to take a quick look at the story WRAL produced about their visit.
We know you like to get up, turn on the TV, and get your day started with WRAL's Morning News.
Yeah, students at One Raleigh Elementary School are getting their day started with their own morning newscast. WRAL's Brian Schrader got to see it firsthand. Brian?
It was something else. You know, my first TV job was on my school newscast at Willow Spring Elementary School in the 5th grade. So I could not pass up the opportunity to visit some other 5th graders who are making their own TV magic. We got a warm welcome when we went to Walnut Creek Elementary School in Raleigh.
Something about history.
And in the media center, we found a TV studio and a group of 5th graders working hard to put together the morning news. So do you have a joke of the day yet?
Ooh.
And a couple of minutes after 9 a.m.,
Good morning.
we're on the air in classrooms all across Walnut Creek Elementary. After a few minutes, I make my big debut.
This is our news reporter from WRAL.
Brian Schrader from WRAL, and I want to tell you what you got for lunch today. What do we have for lunch today? We have mini corn dog nuggets. Pretty good. It was so much fun because these hard-working students do such a great job. They are learning the ins and outs of putting together a daily newscast.
And once you get used to it, when you start doing it a lot, you kind of get used to it. So that nervous feeling kind of leaves your system, and you get kind of more confident about going on the morning news.
After the broadcast, all the 5th graders came into the gym to talk about TV news. And I had one more surprise up my sleeve. Does anybody know the name of the lady that does the weather in the morning on WRAL? I think I saw your hand go up first. Elizabeth Gardner. Elizabeth Gardner. Well, Elizabeth Gardner's here.
How are y'all?
She talked about what she does in the Weather Center.
Weather in particular, you can help save people's lives with some of that information.
Elizabeth and I had a great time, and we went home knowing the future of broadcasting is in good hands.
I taught horseback riding lessons for a little while.
And there is great news for these students. Walnut Creek just got a grant from the county to install a weather station at the school and give classrooms cameras and microphones so students can produce their own news stories and weather reports, and that all gets started later in the school year.
I love this.
It's cool. Thank you.
Oh, there's always a video. Following the video is difficult. So I will be brief. As always, a lot of great things going on in our school, and congratulations to all of our traditional students who've celebrated their honor roll report card, having a middle schooler. I always forget it's that time of the year until I get my little notice from the school. I would also say to our staff, I am very impressed by all of our new technology. There is no way I'm going to miss a message from our schools. Today, while I was in a meeting, I kept seeing the number, and I was like, that's Wake County Public Schools Exchange. It's my daughter's school, reminding me that school's actually out tomorrow. So I appreciate all the methods that we are putting in place to ensure our parents are up to speed and ensuring that we know everything about our kids in a way of using technology that's very useful. As I had a parents or media interview today for work, I had the interviewer say, that bus app, I really love it, but it also means with your substitute drivers, they're making a wrong turn. I said, oh, great. Did you hear this morning on your news station that you advertised our bus drivers? And he said, that's why I thought I'd bring it up. So just a reminder that we love our technology, and it's helpful that that our local stars in our media recognize and are either graduates of our school system, which was awesome to hear from Mr. Strader a few moments ago, and also they have students in our school district. And so it's just a reminder that all the folks that we interface with are somehow connected to Wake County Public Schools, which I also will end on a wonderful note. And I should have queued up my own video for Freddie Lee Heath, and congratulations to the work that he did. And he told me to give a special thanks to Communications, who got the What Starts Here Changes Everything t-shirts in less than 2 weeks. The WTVD first time hosting the parade, and they asked that Wake County Public School pull together dancers, and apparently from all 3 grade levels, school levels, he was able to pull together those dancers. They had 2 practices. Most of those children had never danced before, and I was there with my daughter and got to watch them do a run through before, and they were phenomenal. And they had on their wonderful WCPSS shirts, and they were showcased. So if you haven't seen it, WTVD has it archived on their website that you can see our students who've only had a total of 2 practices prior to Saturday morning. By the way, they were all there, ready by 7:45 a.m. To do their spotlight showcase dance. And so thanks to all of our staff who made that possible. Those students loved every minute, and I loved every minute watching them and noting that we had students from all across our district represented in that, for some of them, a once-in-a-lifetime thing, because the camera was literally right here in their face. And so they were excited, and I was excited, and so we forgot it was cold. But it's all, and it was also, as always, great to see our bands, all of our drum majors, do a great job and really make, I think, Raleigh's Parade what it should be, because we bring all the arts. And so I rarely tweet, but my Twitter handle this weekend was Arts is Education, and our students really made that come alive on Saturday at the parade. So if you didn't if you missed it, please tune in. It's archived on their website. Thank you. Ms. Kushner.
Thank you, Chair Johnson-Hostler. And I'm looking forward to the Thanksgiving break for all of our families. And today got to celebrate a little early at Mount Vernon Middle School, which annually hosts Turkey in the Hole. And if you don't know what that is, it's a time-honored tradition at Mount Vernon where they take turkeys. They dig a hole in a fire pit in holes, and overnight this becomes the best turkey. Don't tell my mother. It is the best turkey that I will have this week. So thank the staff and students there. Also got to tour Bridges, the elementary program that we have on that same campus, and learn about their implementation of the community responsive trauma-informed model that is making a huge impact on students at Bridges. So I want to lift up both those programs. Also also got to go to Alston Ridge in our, with Mr. Fletcher and Miss Mahaffey and brave the cold weather, but it was fitting to not put off that long-awaited groundbreaking for Alston Ridge Middle School. So thanks to all who came out that morning. And also the Teacher of the Year annually, every day at Leesville, Angie Scioli, invited not only school board members, but also elected officials from the state legislature and from various federal agencies in the Triangle to meet with her students. They asked wonderful questions of school board members, including a great idea that they want more time, unstructured time in the school day to work on their own learning and take more agency of their own learning, which I think is a great idea for high school students in particular. So it was a great morning at Leesville this past Monday to meet with those students. And thanks to all the colleagues and elected officials who went that morning.
Mr. Sutton.
Thanks. Just briefly, we had our District 4 BAC Board of Advisory Council meeting last week, and we had an interesting discussion about student assignment. And because we don't really have much of an impact in this go-around on District 4 in terms of student assignment and any changes or moves, we talked a little bit about how we accomplish student achievement through student assignment. And so it was an interesting discussion that looked at the history of student assignment, what was the old policy 6200, and how it has evolved over the years. So we had Kathy Moore with us, and we had a great conversation with our administrators and parents about how we might appropriately look at student achievement targets and that sort of thing to begin looking at how we can make more of an impact using student assignment as a tool to increase student achievement. So with that, that's all I have. Wish everyone and all our students a happy Thanksgiving, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Good evening. Just by way of announcement, to get it on the calendar for people in District 5, our BAC meeting will be on Monday, December 4th, which with the Thanksgiving holidays, it's going to come up before we are ready for it. So and that'll be before our next board meeting. We'll be talking about school safety and security kinds of issues. I'd like to also note we had a great visit by Governor Cooper to Washington Elementary School last week. It was a lot of fun to see the governor getting down right with the kids, interacting with their activities, engaging in their learning. We very clearly saw the impacts of the K-3 class size legislation. He was very attuned and receptive to that. We had, I think, 3 members of the General Assembly there as well. They also saw those huge needs. So it's always good to show people who are making decisions what it's actually like in the facilities. Of course, one of the most wonderful things that I saw was it was either first or second grade classroom. There were 4 adults engaging the children in learning, and this was not an overcrowded classroom. This was for a normal-sized classroom. There was the teacher, the teaching assistant. There was a behavioral teaching assistant and a parent volunteer. And I'll tell you what, when you had that ratio of adults to students learning in very hands-on, small group ways was possible. It's just not possible if you have one teacher to the even 15, 20, or 30 students. So getting adults in the classroom to engage with our students actually can have a huge impact on student learning. Also like to acknowledge quite a number of us were at the North Carolina School Boards Association meeting last week. It's always good to engage with colleagues across the state. While we primarily focus here in Wake County, as many people say, so goes Wake, so goes the state. We do have a lot of responsibility to lead in education initiatives across the state. But it's always great to hear from others and work together in partnership. Finally, I'd like to make a couple comments related to assignment. Student assignment has been a big issue, is a big issue over the last couple of weeks and months. We get a lot of emails. And out of those comments and emails, a couple comments that I think it's important for us to, as a community, recognize and address. First, we hear a lot about, maybe it's my Cary schools or my Garner schools or my Holly Springs schools or my Apex schools. And I just want to reinforce that we do not have municipal schools. If we did, your tax dollars would go up dramatically. We have a Wake County public school system. If you actually look at the extraterritorial jurisdictions of our municipalities, they make little to no sense with respect to where students live, where our schools are. So you actually get a much better service for a much lower cost by having the Wake County public school system. And I think we need to, as a community, re-own the fact that we are the Wake County public school system and we're not a bunch of individual municipalities. By the way, your soccer teams are often cross municipalities, as do your churches, so our schools naturally do as well. A second thing that I've heard a lot is, related to student achievement. Some people accuse us of just shuffling students so that the student achievement numbers on spreadsheets look better. Some people say, I don't want to send my kid to a school that has lower achievement numbers. First of all, there's not a shuffling just for spreadsheets. The reason that we try not to have any schools that have high numbers of high needs kids is so that we kind of spread around the work to all schools. If I have a school with all lower needs kids versus a school with high needs kids, I'm going to burn out one staff or the other. So it's a shared responsibility. But in terms of achievement, if you actually look at the data, the achievement correlates with the socioeconomic status of the kids coming into the school. I'm a data guy. I work with it all the time in my day job as a professor of chemistry at NC State. So I took that data and I recognized this strong correlation between socioeconomics and achievement. It's nearly a straight line. If I got that kind of a data in physical science chemistry experiments, I'd be happy. But what I do when I have that kind of a slope is you actually take into account that slope and you normalize for that effect. When you normalize for that effect, what you find is our schools that are beating statistics the most are our high-need schools. So if you're worried about student achievement, if you're worried about the work that's going on in the schools and how that will impact your kids, our higher need schools, on average, are beating statistics more than any of our other schools. So you cannot just say, don't send me to that school. Whatever school you go to, please engage, because we all need to engage so that everybody can learn, but know that our high challenge schools are doing impressive work. The final thing I'd like to note is we've heard some people say that you're not listening, you just want to reassign. Well, listening is a long-term process. Listening doesn't mean that the statement is what's going to actually happen, particularly not in the short term. I can say in the 6 years now that I've been on the board that this board has been a board that engages in active listening. Tonight we're going to hear more discussion of what we talked about in work session, I'm sure, about whether we should have a traditional or a year-round calendar for Buckhorn Creek Elementary School. A lot of the current comments are requesting year-round. For the last 5 years, we have heard from the community time and time again that we need more traditional calendar schools west of 55. That is why the decision was made to open all schools on the traditional calendar school. That decision was made based on community feedback. And when we open a school, it takes about 5 years of planning. So what I want to note is that these decisions are based on community feedback. The current community feedback will absolutely be part of our ongoing process, and that ongoing process will shape assignments years into the future. We do actively listen. We have heard the statements today, and we will continue to listen and work with the community. But note that on something as complex as a school system, listening, it takes time for things to actually be implemented, and that's exactly what's going on right now. Thank you.
Mr. Agee.
Yes. The District 1 Board Advisory Council meeting was last Monday, and during that meeting, I discussed 2 items with everyone. One of them was a change in the current building program for Eastern Wake, with an idea of trying to implement a lower cost per seat set of buildings in that part of the county and see how that would shape up. Also with a change to the current plans for East Wake Middle. Those two items were received fairly well. I'm still expecting more information back on that. And the second item was on assignments. And I said here at this table last meeting that the idea of having a prioritized list for assignment where the parents can look at and somewhat establish for themselves where they stand in the assignment process, not having 4 items that are treated equally, that for any one assignment could be any of the 4 items and they have no idea to guess which one. That was also received fairly well, and I'm waiting to hear more back on that. But thus far, everyone I've communicated with over a prioritized list seems in favor of that. I'm not saying what the priority of the items are and what the list is, and I've received a few different items on that, but thus far that seems to be fairly well received. Maybe we can look into that. Thank you.
Ms. Hartstein.
We've just come out of a work session in which we spent at least an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes on our student assignment plan. And one of the things that I really appreciate about our board is the diligence in taking the time to look at what our families are saying about our student assignment plan. I was a former principal, and I used to think that I had really great ideas. And I'd bring my leadership team in, and I would start to say to them, well, I'm thinking about making this kind of change because I think it's going to really have a positive impact on student achievement, or it's really going to help the social development of our students. But my next question always to my leadership team was, so tell me why this is not a good idea. Tell me why we shouldn't do it. Because I found such value in why we shouldn't as much as why we should. And so reading all of the comments and the emails and the online forum, and getting feedback is really helpful when our families let us know what they are thinking. And as a board, we sift through that because, as in all areas, again, when I was a principal, I thought it was a great idea, but there may be better ideas. So I appreciate the process and appreciate what the board is doing, and I'm really looking forward to digging deeper. This was something our board decided that we really want to make a priority beginning in January, where we are not looking at a student assignment plan that would be implemented in the next 2 months, but one that would be more long-term, that we are really getting community feedback, not about a particular school or filling up, like what's the assignment area going to be for a particular new school, but instead we're going to look at how does this impact the entire district. And as Dr. Martin says, we are a district of schools, not municipalities. And how is that going to affect it? And what kinds of things can we learn from our community that would help us as board members make the best decision we possibly can? So I'm really looking forward to that work that we're going to be doing as we decide what are the core values for Wake County Public Schools. Let's revisit them. And what are our pillars? And let's revisit them, because I think the more time we spend on that, the better plan we get in the end. I'd also like to thank Angie Scully for the invitation. Also, I was there right after Ms. Kushner to talk to the young people that were in her civics and economics class, and I was really impressed with the questions and the preparation that these young people did before we met. And one of the questions that the students asked over and over at each, as we rotated among tables, they wanted to know about diversity in schools. They wanted to know, what does Wake County feel about diversity? Is it important to us? There was lots of questions about that, and I was really impressed with their thoughtfulness in that area. And finally, I want to thank this board also for approving the early release on Tuesday for our teachers and our administrators, because they got a day which was not a Friday, and I understand how that's really great for families. But they weren't exhausted and it wasn't the last 2 hours of their work week, but instead it was Tuesday afternoon. And I am really grateful that we decided to do that and approve that as part of our calendar so that families too could get on the road, since tomorrow is the busiest holiday travel day. So I'm glad that we were able to do that for our teachers. Thank you.
Ms. Mahaffey.
I had the honor of being invited to Apex Middle School's Veterans Day celebration. At 7:45 in the morning, I have never heard middle schoolers that quiet. And it just spoke to how they understood the occasion and the requirement for being solemn. They had veterans that were family members of students honored. One older gentleman was in his full dress Marine Corps uniform. A family was selected to raise the flag while a single, I believe it was a trumpet, not a bugle, played taps, and just a very quiet but moving celebration of our veterans. Last night I was at Lufkin Middle School and gave a presentation on an overview of the Wake County Public Schools to their PTA and answered some questions, and just a lot of different questions, mostly with assignment because that's what we're dealing with, but I'm happy to answer them. And I just want to echo Ms. Hartenstein's comments that student assignment is a tough process, and I am hopeful that we can get this process started sooner and communicate and open those lines of communication sooner so that we're able to really have conversations throughout, and not at this moment where things are a bit last minute and heated.
Ms. Cash.
I also went to the Turkey in the Hole today, and I said I would mention two names. Mr. Harris Cannon and Miss McKinney have been working at that school for 30 years, and I said I'd mention their names tonight. They're retired, I think, and mentioned that you weren't there, Mr. Fletcher. And however, they come back. It is a great event, actually. It really is a good event, and they come back and continue to help. Social workers were there. The new principal was there. It was really fun. I also was at the Christmas parade, and I'm so proud of Wake County Public School bands. I'm actually thinking that City Council Raleigh, I mentioned that they might want to fund some of our bands because it seems like they were half of the parade. Yeah. So we should get some funding from Raleigh shortly. And I want to mention, too, student assignment. I've been on this board before, and student assignment just encompasses everything that we do. And it has always been the most difficult thing that I can remember ever. And when I was on the board before, my area was fast growing in the north part of Raleigh, and much like what Ms. Mahaffey's facing now, but we are continuing to grow. And I do want to thank Ms. Mahaffey. She has spent hours and hours on the phone with me, going through this plan, talking about everything that's been said about the plan, and I've looked at it every which way, and it is really difficult. There's a lot of positives to go one way, a lot of positives to go another way, but it is the hardest thing we do, and I think we have talked about it nonstop. So I just wanted to mention that we understand how hard this is for everybody.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you. Had a pleasure of being with the Cary Elementary PTA just about 2 weeks ago. Had a good discussion about what's going on in the district academically, as well as assignment, which at this point doesn't really impact Cary Elementary, but they wanted to know what was going on. I want to give a shout out to some folks who helped orchestrate a showing of the movie Resilience at the Cary Theater. This includes the Advocates for Health in Action, the Wake PTA, the Taylor YMCA, Councilmember Lori Bush from the Cary Town Council, and I worked together to get this the showing of Resilience scheduled at the Cary Theater. Resilience is a movie everybody in this room needs to see. And so look for it on the internet, find out when you can go see it, and participate in the program that follows it. The point of Resilience is that adverse childhood experiences have lifelong impact on health and lots of other things. You kind of peel that onion, you get down to a fidgety child who's a disruption in class has adverse childhood experiences that are informing his behavior. So how do we change the behavior of a child who has those adverse experiences? And the movie presents some strategies for doing that. It's called building relationships, giving the child a voice, not putting them down, but supporting meeting them where they are and then developing their relationship. In a different venue, I was given this statement that comes out of a publication called Quantum Success by Sandra Ann Taylor, and I think it fits right in. If you went to bed hungry last night, there's a fear of, will I be hungry tonight? If there was some kind of abuse in your home, that's a fear that you have. And this article, this book puts together fear of future, fear of rejection, fear of failure. But the point that this particular chapter makes is that all fear is toxic to the energy of achievement. All fear is toxic to the energy of achievement. And that's what we face in our schools. And that's the challenge that as we continue to try to figure out how to open up the communication and have young people take ownership of their responsibility to learn and stop the battles of behavioral challenges and those things, we need to remember all fear is toxic to the energy of achievement. And then we need, as a community, to say it's time we resolve those issues for our young people. So that's where I wanted to end with. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion for approval of our agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. We will now have recognition of our Employee Excellence Awards, Jackie Ellis and Jason Kennedy. Jason's joining us. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Merrill. It is my pleasure to bring you this evening the November recipients of the Wake County Public Schools Employee Excellence Award. Awardees, when I call your name, please come to the front and be greeted by Dr. Merrill and remain up front until all recipients have come forward. Ms. Stacy Bagley, Registrar, Wake Forest High School. Stacy goes above and beyond for our school, parents, and students. She is always willing to pitch in and help staff members in need. Stacy maintains a spotless, organized, cumulative file room. She looks for ways to improve. She is customer service oriented and is a pleasure to work with. Her efficiency and work ethic is unmatched, and she needs to know how much she is appreciated. Rose Campbell, Operations Team Leader, Panther Creek Transportation. Ms. Campbell is a very hardworking and thorough team leader. Ms. Campbell always has a smile and a very positive attitude. She takes pride in every aspect of her job. She cares very much for all of her drivers and is always willing to help when needed. Ms. Campbell is a pillar within Panther Creek operation, and it is an honor and privilege to work with Ms. Campbell. She has been team leader at Panther Creek Transportation since the district opened. Ms. Campbell is an inspiration to the entire team. Robert Duarte, Custodial Field Supervisor, Custodial Services. Robert is a custodial field supervisor that doesn't mind tackling tough issues and concerns. He assisted several nights at Lake Myra Elementary with disinfecting touch points and other areas in the school for possible norovirus. He also assisted with cleanup at Vernon Malone during the storm. He has also helped with getting schools ready after a recent snow and ice event. He is an intricate part of our team that works well with his co-workers. He works diligently at solving problems and following up with admin, staff, and principals on issues going on at their school. All of this makes him very deserving of this award. Ms. Paulette Hicks, Child Development Center Director, Athens Drive High School. Paulette has been an integral part of the Athens Drive High School community since it opened in 1978. She has been the director of the Athens Drive Child Development Center since the opening of the school. She is a magical educator. She genuinely cares for each little jag and junior jag. That's the 3- and 4-year-olds, if you don't understand. And prepares them for elementary school. We have students and even teachers that were once little jags. Her commitment to education and masterful teaching are inspiring to all, and we cannot thank her enough. Jennifer Halsey, Health Science Coordinator, Athens Drive High School. Jennifer tirelessly works to ensure not only her academy students, but also the entire student body gains valuable educational experiences in the medical field. She connects students to job shadowing, internship, and mentoring experiences that are incredibly exciting and relevant. In addition, she helps promote the medical sciences and global health initiatives theme throughout the building. She creates lessons, collaborates with all departments, and offers selflessly of her time and energies to the school. We are beyond honored to have her in the Jaguar family. Rudolph Lynn, Custodial Field Supervisor, Custodial Services. Rudolph, or better known to most as Rudy, is a custodial field supervisor with very detailed knowledge of the equipment, which makes him an asset to our A team, as he is able to examine and sometimes even fix the school's equipment without a work order even needed to be generated. He is also an asset to his team because of his thoroughness with any job that he tackles. Rudy has assisted at Lake Myra for several days with cleaning of the school due to the suspected norovirus outbreak, and at Vernon Malone due to storm damage. All of this makes him very deserving of this award. Anita Reeves, Registrar, Leesville Road High School. I have never met someone who is as organized and knowledgeable about the students as Anita is. She keeps a clean desk, meaning she files things or sends things as soon as she gets them. She always knows where students' folders are when they aren't yet in the records room. She is very responsive to emails and is just as impressive overall. She works with a great team in student services, which enhances her excellence. Tricia Seymour, Magnet Coordinator, Green Elementary. Tricia has brought our Leadership Magnet program to life. She embraces the 7 habits in all that she does and has imparted this onto the students at Green. Last year, she began a leadership special for students in grades 3 through 5, where they took on a role in the school to help out. Students could be seen in the office helping staff, distributing mail, helping teachers and students in lower grades and in all areas of the school embracing their leadership role. Tricia is always the first to help out and always has a smile on her face. She is always thinking win-win and trying to find the best solutions to problems that arise. Thank you, Tricia, for all that you do for the students at Green. Alfred Walker, Custodial Field Supervisor, Custodial Services. Alfred, or Ray as he's known to most, is a custodial field supervisor and A-team member. He has worked very hard this year on retraining staff, assisted converting schools with transitioning from an in-house custodial staff to a contract custodial staff. He also helps train some of our multi-language custodians on things like timesheets, email accounts, and scheduling. He assisted at Vernon Malone during the storm damage and at another school that had small smoke damage and assists with inclement weather cleanup. All of this makes him very deserving of this award. Susan Walker, Lead Secretary, Yates Mill Elementary School. It is an honor and privilege to nominate Ms. Susan Walker for the Employee Excellence Award. Ms. Walker is an integral part of the Yates Mill community, serving as the school's lead secretary. She has dedicated 32 years to Wake County Public School System, 17 of which at Yates Mill. She has devoted her life to making a difference to those around her. Her passion to help others is evident as she is always willing to lend a hand and assist others. Ms. Walker is dependable, trustworthy, knowledgeable, lighthearted, and most of all, caring. Yates Mill Elementary is a better place to work and learn because of Susan Walker. Tammy Webb, receptionist, Rand Road Elementary. Ms. Webb is quiet, unassuming, yet a most professional and proficient employee, performing her duties with a grace and calm spirit even in stressful situations. Her job requires her to multitask as she answers a constantly ringing telephone, checks in parents, volunteers, and visitors, checks in and out students, administers first aid and medication, notifies parents and students of injuries, answers staff members' questions, makes last-minute copies for teachers, changes the empty roll of lamination film, calls students to the office for administrators, helps staff with the copy machine, maintains the volunteer clearance list, makes posters, and works on special projects requested of her. She does all of this with kindness, smiles, and a willing spirit to help in a way that she can so that the office and school run smoothly and efficiently. It gives us pleasure to call Ms. Webb a Rand Road Raider, a wonderful colleague and a good friend. Gladys Rivera, custodian, Moore Square Middle. At this time, I would like to call Ms. Teresa Rodriguez to the podium to read Mrs. Rivera's presentation in her native language.
Qué sorpresa tan agradable el día al que la señora Rivera vino a trabajar con nosotros para cuidar nuestra escuela. Desde el primer día, la señora Rivera ha superado nuestras expectativas en muchos aspectos. A pesar de que habla solo un poquito de inglés, la señora Rivera ha sido capaz de construir relaciones personales con todos nosotros, con constancia y amabilidad. Se las arregla para buscar el apoyo del personal de la escuela y poder comunicarse con claridad. Así se asegura de que comprende bien las cosas. A pesar de que su inglés no es muy fluido, se esfuerza a diario para tener conversaciones educadas con el personal de la escuela y se asegura de que todos conectan con ella para hacer nuestros días más brillantes. La señora Rivera muestra una impecable ética profesional en todo momento. No se conforma con hacer su trabajo, sino que va más allá. Desde el principio, y a pesar de que aún se estaba adaptando a este puesto, ya pudimos comprobar que ella aporta su toque personal a las zonas que pasan por sus manos. Por ejemplo, algunas áreas de la escuela se limpiaban solo por temporadas y ella las atiende ahora con mucha regularidad. Pudimos comprobar con gran admiración cómo la señora Rivera cuidaba nuestra escuela con el mismo esmero que si fuera su propia casa. Odio no ser tan lista y tan ingeniosa como ella. Ojalá pudiera decirle todas estas cosas a diario. Me esfuerzo en comunicarme en español, con un español roto, que ella siempre se muestra paciente y afirma con la cabeza que comprende. No la culpo en absoluto si piensa que es raro que la persona que más dinero gana en nuestra escuela es capaz de hablar solo un idioma. La señora Rivera nunca se ríe de mis errores ni en español y no me juzga, y en lugar de eso me sonríe, encantada de ver cómo uso su idioma. Tengo que afirmar que la señora Gladys, nuestra Gladys, es un modelo a seguir por todos nosotros.
Now, that is rather hard to follow, but I will give it my best shot here. What a surprise when Ms. Rivera came to work with us as our custodian. From day one, Ms. Rivera has exceeded our expectations in every way. Despite knowing only a small amount of English, Ms. Rivera, through perseverance and kindness, has built meaningful relationships across our school. She will seek out the support of staff members to help her communicate more clearly and to also make sure she understands things. Though she is not fluent in English, she has done the hard work to be able to engage in polite conversation, ensuring that staff members feel connected to her and that their days are brightened as she says hello. Ms. Rivera continuously displays her work ethic and high standards in all that she does. As she transitioned into her position, we quickly saw the ways that she put the personal touch on all of her assigned areas. Spaces that had once just been cleaned seasonally were now being attended to regularly. We all watched in delight as Mrs. Rivera took care of the school with a unique level of ownership. The principal states that I hate that I am not as smart or driven as she is. If I were, I could tell her these things every day in Spanish. I say what little I know, and she is always patient and affirming to me, but I wouldn't blame her for thinking that it is odd that the person who makes the most money at our school only speaks one language. She never laughs at my mistakes or judges me, but rather smiles and praises and seems genuinely pleased that I am trying. Again, a wonderful role model. I would like to, at this time, have all of my recipients turn and face the board, please. All right.
Thank you. If you all will join me in giving them another round of applause. That is tough to follow. The principal did a great job, and I think I would share those sentiments to everyone standing up here before me. We know that our district can't be what it is without each of you, and the level of commitment that we hear every time we have our employees before us. But I'm going to hold on to something that I want to share with all of you because it was said about one of you, but I think it's an important thing. And the word magical I hadn't used, and so I'm still a little flabbergasted that you've been there since it opened in 1978, so that shows me the true commitment. I know, I was like, yeah, I know. But I think that was priceless to use a word like magical. It speaks to, now it's really in a fad to talk about unicorns and how we're all special, and I think that's what I'll share with each of you tonight is there is definitely something magical and special about those of you and the ways that you give yourself fully to Wake County Public Schools, and on behalf of our entire board, we are grateful for your service and your commitment, and thank you very much. Thank you. And very similarly to Ms. Hartenstein, usually we take a brief recess, which we will do so that they can rush off because they have to go to work tomorrow. But I'm glad that we could take a brief recess so that you all can leave and enjoy your holiday. So we'll take a brief recess so people can transition in and out. Thank you. He's always on it too. He was moving in on people. I know. I will. I don't think it will. I just think they'll just get a little things and somehow try to. It's the same group that you were at. Thank you. You know he does. That's right. So did I. I know the wind came around this year. He's a college professor.
It's not the first time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
See, I thought we were all wearing this NC State red for some
Yeah, right.
So nice.
Mr. Smith, Russ, they moved people. They moved people in here.
He put it in order for me. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think we have gotten people moved around as needed. Our next item, excuse me, is an information item. As you can see, we're prepared up here for that. Dr. Marvin Conley.
Chair Johnson, Hostler, board members. Programs, Dr. Angie Wright, Senior Director of Grants and Strategic Initiatives, as well as Mr. Tom Ward, Senior Vice President of Brand Community Partnership Development with the Carolina Hurricanes, to talk about a phenomenal partnership that we're starting around literacy.
Good evening, Board Chair Johnson Hostler, board members, Superintendent Dr. Merrill. We're here to share some exciting news about a partnership between Wake County and the Carolina Hurricanes. In recognition of the 20th anniversary of the Carolina Hurricanes and the Wake County Public School System Strategic Plan 2020, a partnership was bridged to bring Revolution to all of our elementary schools. So what is Revolution? Revolution is a community-wide literacy campaign for creating daily reading habits for students outside of school. This event kicked off in all of our schools on October the 2nd and will end January the 12th, 2018. There are two components, an individual and school-wide. The individual component really has two pieces. One is where students track their reading on an online system each day by providing their name and the minutes they have read. We are encouraging students to read for 20 minutes each day outside of school. If students read 20 minutes each day, between Monday and Friday, between the time frame of October and January, they will read a total of 1,200 minutes, equaling to 20 hours. Students who meet this goal will receive a complimentary ticket voucher to a Carolina Hurricanes home game. The second component is an essay contest. All of our students may participate. For students in grades K through 2, they may write on the topic of why reading is important to me. In grades 3 through 5, students will be writing on the topic of why team sports are important to me. There will be 2 essay winners from each region, one from each K2 and one for 3-5. Those students, their names will appear in the News and Observer along with their essay. Those students will also be recognized here at our board meeting on January the 16th. Furthermore, their essays will be published, compliments of Lulu, one of our partners. Each student will be giving a book of the published essays at the January 16th board meeting. And I'll turn it over to Tom, who will talk about the school-wide components.
Thanks, Nicole. Dr. Merrill, you look very festive tonight. Thank you. We hope to see you out at one of our games in that jersey as well. Anyway, in addition to what Nicole said, there's also a school-wide component to this. And this is whereby we'll have every school will be challenged to read collectively 2,020 books. And if they read those as an entire student body, if they read the 2,020 books, then they will be eligible to participate in an event, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we think one of the neat parts of this program is that inside the lobby of each school will be an actual life-size goal, a 4'6" goal, and it's actually a banner, not a goal. And each time a student reads a book, they'll put their name on a paper puck along with the title of the book and put it in the goal, which has a great visual, hopefully great motivation and recognition for the students as well. The schools that read 2,020 books collectively, which is tied to the strategic plan, Vision 2020, will be put into 9 different districts. One school from each district will be drawn to attend an event out at the PNC Arena, which is entitled the Cool School Field Trip. At that event, it'll be a day of academic celebration. For all the students, they'll be able to witness a Hurricanes practice. We'll divide the players into 2 different squads, a red and a white squad. The students will cheer on their team. We'll have different shooting drills. I think Dr. Merrill had volunteered to be in goal for that. And we'll have skills competitions to get the students excited. And it'll also end with several of our players, specifically Jeff Skinner, who's the spokesman for this program, who has a love of reading and a lifelong journey of learning and reading through his family. We'll have some good words to say to the students about their journey of reading and learning. And I think it'll be a fun day of festivities and education and culminate with a great event. Lastly is that we're also out there in the school system right now. We're doing a number of different events. We call them reading rallies, where we bring our front office, we bring Stormy, our mascot, and use it as a motivation to continue to read and complete that 20 minutes a day, the 20 hours in the 2020 books. So we're excited about the partnership, and I think the neat thing in closing is that it's all tracked online. So we know how many minutes the students are reading, how many books the students have read and the schools have read. So this is metrics that you all can take back and look at after this is completed, and then we can chart the journey going forward. So thank you all very much for your partnership.
And at this time, we'll have a video to highlight Revolution in our schools.
The Revolution program is a new program we've started through a partnership with Wake County Public Schools. We're in all of the elementary schools around Wake County. We're encouraging each of the students to read 20 minutes outside of school every single day. And then we're also encouraging each of the schools to read 2020 books.
The main thing when we come to these schools is to encourage them to make sure they have the message of what we want them to do and encourage them to read in those 20 minutes. Some of these assemblies we're going to are more of a celebration because they've already hit the mark we wanted them to, but to continue to ask them to read more and continue with the 20 minutes no matter what mark they're at and continue reading all these books.
And Smith Elementary was already at 2,500 books.
I like to read because it gives you a chance for your imagination, and it gives you a good story, and it lets your imagination make the picture sometimes. Just not give you it, it lets you make it.
Justin Falk had chosen to eat a blackberry pie while wearing goggles and a swim cap.
Reading is learning, and our little kids, we are teaching them to read, and then our older kids, we are helping them read to learn. And so the more practice they get, the more proficient they'll get. It helps them in all aspects of their curriculum, and so anytime we can get kids to practice reading and to learn to love reading, it's going to impact their ability to be successful.
I just like reading. I just don't want to encourage anyone. I think they should realize by themselves that reading's a good thing, not a bad thing.
A lot of professional athletes are such role models for our kids, and that is something that they can all relate to, and it's something they all look up to. And to hear athletes saying and promoting literacy and reading, the kids think that that is really cool, and so they want to follow along with that. So I think it's a great way to promote literacy for our kids and to get our kids excited about it.
We would like to thank some of our external partners, Lulu and Cengage. Lulu is providing the books for our students when the essays are published, and Cengage provided us with the online tracking system. And in Wake County, this has been a cross-departmental effort, and it has taken every department to bring this to fruition, so I just want to thank all of them, although I cannot say every department's name in this moment, but just know that this has just been a collaborative effort just across our entire community, and the Hurricanes have been great partners to us in promoting literacy, and we hope to continue that. So thank you. And Tom has some treats for us.
I'll distribute some hats a little later. And in closing, I would like to say is if you ever watch our games or come to the arena or listen to our broadcast, you'll see some of the public service announcements that we're running to continue to promote this. And hopefully the kids are not up past their bedtime, but if they see that, it'll add a little bit more motivation and incentive. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We will now move to our. One more. Absolutely. One more special gift.
We won't go away. We're here. We did have some tickets for you all to provide to some of your leaders, and however you want to distribute them, we'll provide as the students are. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
And if Dr. Merrill gets out of line, we provided this for you as well.
I think this is a really special gift. Leave this right here. It's a really nice hat, too. Irony is everywhere. Thank you very much, Mr. Ward, and for the Hurricanes for their commitment to our students. I think Ms. Mitchell said it best. I liked her comment is reading is learning, and so it is exciting to know that many of our schools are already surpassing their goals. And so it's interesting, the first time I went in the school and saw the actual goal, I don't have an elementary school kid anymore, so I was like, what's this thing? And now it's everywhere. So we are grateful for all of our external partners who continue to invest in our students and recognizing their commitment as a community to visualizing and bringing to fruition our goal, our strategic plan goal 2020, which is your number and your name on the back. So thanks again, and thanks to the staff for all of their work. I appreciate Dr. Priestley saying that it took the entire district and all the departments, and so while I too will not name them all in this moment, thank you for the commitment to all of our students and working together to achieve such success as a district. I think now we will officially move to the next segment. I will read together both our public hearing comment as well as our public comments, as we will just have them all go at the same time this evening. For public comment, citizens who sign up to address the board during public comment will be called on in priority order, first for items on the agenda and then for items not on the agenda. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Specific personnel or student matters are not appropriate for this public comment setting, but may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. Public hearing year 4 of the WCPSS enrollment plan. For each individual speaker, you will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks regarding year 4 of the enrollment plan of 2018-19. And for both sets of speakers, the timer will let you know when your time is approaching, and it will also buzz when your 3 minutes are up. So we will begin now with our we only have one speaker for public comment, so we'll start there. Ms. Kimberly Warren.
My name is Kim Warren. I am here tonight to discuss safety at Salem Middle School. My child was permanently scarred for the rest of her life at Salem Middle School on October 31st, 2017. I have a picture here if you would like to see it. In my opinion, this incident could have been prevented if Policy Code 1510, 4200, 7270 had been enforced. In Section B, it states, and I quote, "The principal is required to inspect school buildings, playgrounds, and equipment for health, fire, and safety hazards on a regular basis as required by law, and to notify the superintendent immediately of unsanitary and unsafe conditions or repairs needed to meet safety standards. Any employee who observes any potential hazards must notify the principal or employee supervisor immediately." I have obtained pictures and videos of book bags, water bottles, notebooks, lunch boxes, and band instruments scattered throughout the hallways and pathways. In my opinion, these items create unsafe conditions. In my opinion, on a daily basis, these hallways and pathways are still creating an unsafe environment. And I'm still getting pictures and videos every day. I am really tired of hearing Ms. Warren. This was an accident, and accidents happen. This accident could have been prevented. Bottom line, I ask you, if a person, another person, were to fall, and they were pregnant, and they were to fall over these items that I have pictures of, and they were to lose their baby, would it still be just an accident? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go all the way with this. Thank you.
We will now begin with public hearing. Jennifer Jones.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Jones, and I'm here with many other parents who are wearing red tonight who are affected by opening Buckhorn Creek on a traditional calendar, as well as parents who would have been affected by the middle school realignment. First, I am pleased to hear that middle school alignment is off the table for this year. Thank you for hearing the parents loud and clear that we preferred our kids to go to school closer to home on a different calendar than their siblings. And I look forward to the board approving that on December 5th. Second, I want to reiterate, there is demand for year-round in Holly Springs. Oakview opened 2 years ago, but to my knowledge, it is not full. Holly Grove Elementary has been capped and has been capped for years. You are opening Buckhorn Creek between 2 year-round schools, and we are now hearing that 84% of the kids being reassigned to Buckhorn Creek are coming from year-round calendar. This would have been a perfect opportunity to make Buckhorn Creek the overflow school for Holly Grove. If Buckhorn is going to be opened on a traditional calendar, I propose you allow parents to get into Buckhorn Creek on traditional versus application on calendar choice. If there's that kind of demand for traditional, the school will fill itself. Our kids already have seats at their preferred calendars. Let them stay there. Or take a survey of the parents who are supposed to be moved to Buckhorn Creek. If they want to stay in year-round, let them. Grandfather them until they leave. Let them stay where they start. Third, I'd like to address the comment that all the feedback coming in late about Buckhorn Creek being traditional. That could not be further from the truth. This assignment plan did not release until September 19th. We didn't know exactly which parents would be affected, which kids would be affected until September 19th. That very day the forum opened, that very day parents were posting on the forum, emailing board members. Every single forum response nearly asked for the school to be year-round. I know I personally emailed Ms. Mahaffey myself on September 22nd. There was a forum held on October 6th, and every parent in attendance wanted year-round. This was ignored. Once the board then decided to include middle schoolers in this plan, many more parents became concerned and upset and made their voices heard that they wanted their middle schoolers left out of this plan. On November 13th, this community came together again and made our voices heard on these points. We've now heard 70 families from Lincoln Heights and 50 from traditional are assigned to Buckhorn Creek. Wouldn't it be easier to let these families use calendar choice to stay traditional than it would be to have 84% of the kids, 350 or so, who want year-round have to apply to get back into year-round? And our calendar choice is Holly Springs Elementary. I don't think there's enough room at Holly Springs Elementary for 350 students. And that means what's going to happen 2 years ago to the Oakview parents will happen again to the Holly Grove parents and the Herbert Akins parents. There will be no choice for our kids. We keep hearing that 5 years ago parents demanded year-round. Where's the data on that? When was that polling done? Did anyone think to ask again since things have changed over 5 years? Did anyone think to revisit based on exponential growth? What about the demand for Oakview to be year-round after? What about the demand after Oakview was ignored to be year-round? Thank you.
John Adcock. John Adcock.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Merrill. Thank you for this opportunity. And you guys have a very difficult job. We know that. You're going to make people happy. You're going to make some people not very happy. But you sacrifice a lot of time, and I'm grateful for that. I truly am. I'm not just trying to butter you up. I'm serious. I know you have a difficult job. But, you know, community schools, I take great issue with the comment that assignment should disregard community schools in Wake County, or community in Wake County. When I look at the 4 pillars that you identify as being the pillars that you make your assignment plans based off of, student achievement, stability, proximity, operational effectiveness, that just screams community. Just by example, each community is different in Wake County. Obviously, we're a large county. In southern Wake County, we don't have 4-lane roads. We're mostly a 2-lane road community with farm to market roads built in the 30s and 40s that were never designed to handle what they're dealing with today. So by this transportation plan that's going to result from the proposed realignment, you're sending kids on this transportation system that today walk to school. There's kids that walk from Holly Ridge Middle to their school, or walk from their home to Holly Ridge Middle. There's kids that walk to Holly Grove Middle from their schools, from their homes. So it is a community issue. These decisions are not made in a vacuum. It affects not only the people and the students and the families that are involved in the education process, it affects the businesses, the local governments, and the other residents in southern Wake County that are going to have to deal with the increased traffic. I'm not suggesting to you that traffic should be a priority over student achievement and looking looking for the welfare of each specific student. But it is a very particular issue in southern Wake County that we have road systems that are not equipped to handle the traffic we're dealing with right now. It's being worked on, but we are a work in progress. So focus on the community aspect of this. And again, we appreciate the difficult task that you have before you. And you're going to continually to have it because we're continually growing. And it's going to be an issue that you continually deal with. So, keep kids close to keep them close home, keep the homes and schools close together, if at all practical. Moving a large amount of kids from one school to another where they actually going to be crossing each other, going in different directions, it just is not a reasonable justification for the realignment. Thank you.
Tim Manhart, followed by Kim Macklin.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you again this evening. First, I'd like to echo Mr. Adcock's comments. You have a really tough job, and it's not a job where you can please everyone. And understand that and appreciate all the time that you devote to taking care of our children, providing world-class education to help them learn and grow. To repeat the 4 pillars of reassignment and your assignment plan: stability, proximity, operational efficiency, student achievement. Look at it again as you're addressing Buckhorn Creek as a year-round option. Traditional is the easy way. That's what you said 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Times have changed. The community has grown far beyond the projections that were there 4 or 5 years ago. Consider that. I have heard since the comment made that this is a county school district, not a community school district, I've counted 7 times that you all have used the word community in your discourses since then. This is a community. It's a large community. It's a county community. Within that community, we have districts. We have districts to organize, to support the local communities within the large county community. So it is a tough task, but please keep that in mind. This isn't about dollars. This isn't about politics. This is about the kids. This is about promoting stability, promoting their achievement, and giving the families options to do the best they can for their kids. I implore you to reconsider Buckhorn as a year-round school. 84% of the kids, the number took this long to come out. We asked for the number, the percentage of kids that were coming from year-round since October 6th. Even before then, we asked for it. It finally came out today, midway in your work session. You guys missed the data. I'm a data scientist. You missed the data. Try again.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Kim Macklin. I live in Oliver Creek neighborhood in Holly Springs. My son is a 5th grader at Holly Grove Elementary. Wake County's Public Schools Creed says, "What starts here changes everything." These words are very true for our son, Ryan, and we're very thankful and proud. Ryan has autism and started in Wake County Public Schools when he was 3 years old. He was nonverbal and in an AU preschool class. He started talking when he was 4 and mainstreamed in kindergarten. He is now a thriving 5th grader at Holly Grove Elementary who is achieving academic success and is loved by his amazing teachers and friends, and he's challenged and encouraged on a daily basis. At the October board meeting, a member said, "It's the relationships that we have built with our school that bring us here tonight. Those relationships matter." The relationships Ryan has built in elementary school will most definitely help him have a good transition in middle school next year. The social and emotional well-being of our students is so important, especially in middle school. With an encouraging, supportive peer group, Ryan can face the challenges of middle school and be successful. Academically, the year-round calendar was made for my son. He retains and learns so much better on a year-round calendar with shorter breaks and the consistency of the year-round school. A long summer break would have a very negative impact on him and result in learning loss. He thrives on the structure of school. He gets a mental break And track out also gives him the great opportunity to work on academic areas which are more challenging for him, such as reading comprehension. When he tracks back in, he is quickly back in his routine and excelling academically again. We want Ryan to attend Holly Grove Middle for 6th grade. Again, the creed, "What starts here changes everything," is so true. We want him to have every opportunity to be successful in his middle school years, looking forward to high school with the goal of being successful in high school and then on to college. I'm here to advocate for my son and give him the best chance to achieve his dreams. And keeping him on a year-round schedule with familiar peers in middle school will give him a much better chance. Not only are we talking about student achievement and stability as key factors, but I also feel proximity is important. We live only 2 miles from Holly Grove Middle School. It's only 2 stop signs away and passing some cows along the way as well. Holly Ridge Middle is much further from us on the other side of town, and you would have to go through extremely congested traffic in Holly Springs, and it's take much longer to get there. I volunteer each week regularly in the classroom, not just volunteering in the media center, but also in the classroom every week, and I plan to do that next year in middle school. Just another reason why it's important to our family. Please do not change the base middle school for our neighborhood. Please consider it in your vote and consider my son in your vote in December, and please keep Oliver Creek assigned to Holly Grove Middle. And thank you for your time.
Kara Adcock, followed by Heather Balsley.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak in front of you. I, too, have children in the Holly Springs Area School District. My daughter goes to Holly Grove Middle and is flourishing there. Obviously, no parent wants their child taken from a middle school where they are thriving, simply to fill spots in another part of town. But the bigger picture affects the entire population of Southern Wake County. As you have heard, traffic and congestion is a very large part of our daily routine in Southern Wake County. In fact, the Wake County just voted on a transportation plan in this last election cycle that will help alleviate that. Moving students away from schools, where some of them, in the case of Holly Ridge and Holly Grove, can walk to school, really is something that overburdens our roads that are already way too crowded as it is. We are taking students from schools where a lot of them, like I said, walk, or in our case, our daughter goes to school on 2 roads, and the traffic count from DOT tells us that there are 9,000 cars per day on the road that she takes to school right now. Moving her to Holly Ridge Middle will be putting her on roads that have a traffic count of over 67,000 cars per day. And that's only going one way. You'll have the students from Holly Ridge passing them and going the other way on these crowded roads. And this is DOT information that tells us there's over 67,000 cars per day on the roads that they will be using. That impacts not only the students, but the families and the entire communities. In a year that we have a budget shortfall in Wake County, I don't understand how spending so much more money on fuel, bus drivers, and buses benefits our students. We appreciate that Wake County is a school system with a lot of challenges, but I do not feel as though moving and shaking students across Southern Wake County will help us in any way with these challenges. Thank you.
Good evening. It's great to see you all again. This is the 3rd week in a row I've had the opportunity to speak in front of the board, and I would like to say I appreciate your time and energy in listening to me. 2 weeks ago, I came in front of you and asked that you all do the hard right thing, opening Buckhorn Creek year-round, as opposed to the easy wrong thing, which would be to go with traditional. I have 3 children. We currently go to Holly Grove Elementary, and we will feed into Holly Grove Middle. When I look at all of this, I've worked with a lot of families in our area, and Ms. Johnson-Holster down in Fuquay, I've had several families reach out that are in that quadrant from Lincoln Heights, that if we flip year-round for Buckhorn, they're going to get switched and get put in the same situation that we're in now, where we're going to have the mismatched calendars. If 350 students that are being moved into that school are coming from year-round and being pushed into traditional, and only 70 are being pushed from traditional into year-round, we have to give precedence to the larger community that's being put into that school. When I look at the planning, and Dr. Martin had brought up earlier that you all had polled and gotten data, I would challenge you that your data is not current and therefore is not relevant. The data right now are these families. When one of the very lovely ladies over here mentioned that there hadn't been outrage up until a week ago, that's simply not true. The parent feedback session that was on October 6th, I was there. There were dozens of parents. All we were asking for was for Buckhorn to be turned year-round, and you guys flipped that. There's a difference between hearing and listening. What you heard was that we don't want mismatched calendars, and you changed all our middle schools. What we wanted was Buckhorn Creek to be open year-round. We wasted 6 weeks. I listened to your work sessions today. You guys had an amazing discussion that was actually ideas throwing around. The 2 work sessions prior to that, on October 17th, after that meeting at Holly Grove Middle School with dozens of parents asking for the same thing, Lindsay brought up one comment: we can't open year-round, Buckhorn year-round because of construction. That was the end. No other discussion happened in that work session. I appreciate you guys have discussions outside of it, but as the public, that's all we see. Second work session on November 7th. Lindsay brings it up again. Can we open Buckhorn Creek year-round? Kathy Moore says it's going to be really expensive. We can't push it up. Today was the first time a real discussion actually happened. And you guys cited that it was too late in the game, but the reason we're late in the game is because you were not listening to the actual concerns of the parents. Don Agri has 28 years of experience in facilities management, and he said today in the work session, we've done this before and we can do it again. I'd like to close with a quote from one of my very favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Please do what's right for our community. Please open Buckhorn Creek as a year-round school. Thank you.
Maureen Boudronis and Alice Rupp.
Good evening. I am a terrible public speaker, but I am here tonight to fight for my community. I live in Holly Springs in the Avocet community. I am here tonight to remind you of why you have originally upset us. We came to you with a concern of calendar alignment, forcing children to adjust to a new learning schedule and the rapidly growing population of our town. We asked you to please find a way of opening Buckhorn Creek as a year-round school, and instead, you wasted precious brainstorming time and crafted a draft that would rip our community apart and force 8 years worth of students to transition to not only a new school, but a new way of learning and studying by changing their current school calendars. I got some data for you. As far as population goes, we talked about the 350 students that are going to be moved from year-round schools and the 70 children that are going from traditional. We've talked about stability and the majority and protecting children's life, but something else I want to talk to you about: the growing population of our town. Holly Springs Town cites that there are 395 single-family homes and 210 multifamily homes being built across the street from Buckhorn Creek. There are 525 homes being built in the intersection of Piney Grove and Ralph Stevens Road. There are 116 homes being built at the Bridgeberry subdivision. Also, there are multiple developments being built on Holly Grove and Buckhorn Creek assignment plans. Since Holly Grove is capped, it is safe to assume that these families will apply to come to Buckhorn versus across the street and across the 55 bypass. Another phase that will be affected is 158 homes. That will be another Bridgeberry subdivision. Mills at Avant Ferry will have 221 homes, and Stonemont subdivision will have 141 homes. Plan 3 showed that from 2018 to 2021, there would only be an increase of 62 students. Where are the people going from all these new homes? 1,700 homes are being built in Holly Springs. Where are they going to school? You have an opportunity in front of you right now to open up a school that can hold 30% more students. It seems pretty simple to me. Last week, Kathy Moore at presentation stated that this is a perfect example of why the concept of year-rounds was introduced to Wake County. It makes sense to me. I will end my statement with a quote from Dr. Merrill, which he stated back in 2013. He said, "I really want to reflect what this community wants for its children." I hope that this is still true in 2017, because this community, these people, want Buckhorn Creek to be open year-round. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alice Roop, and I have 2 children at Holly Grove Elementary School. I, with all the other people in red, are here tonight to emphatically ask you all to open Buckhorn Creek Elementary School as a year-round school. I'm very, very disappointed in the board discussions that I watched today. For the board members who kept saying that the community wants traditional schools, show me the data. Show me the data from Holly Springs, the Holly Springs area of Wake County, where the majority of kids that you are forcing to leave a year-round calendar to a traditional one want to change to traditional. These parents have been very vocal since the first open session back in October, when all of the parents, well, many of the parents of future Buckhorn Creek students met in the media center of Holly Grove Middle School. Glenn concluded the heated meeting by asking the crowd of over 200 parents if they would be happy with sending their child to Buckhorn if it was year-round. The majority of people, I really looked hard, I think about 2 didn't raise their hand. If there is demand for your traditional calendar schools, let those folks know they can have my spot, and every other parent who has a child in this room spot. There's a brand new traditional school slated to open called Buckhorn Creek. Why is Holly Grove year-round crowded now, you may wonder? There are certainly other traditional schools in our area that they could attend, but it's sad that I even have to point this out. Once again, the evidence is there that our area prefers year-round schools. Now, I'd like to sit here and beg you to let my children grandfather in forever to Holly Grove Elementary, but I know you've got more to consider than just the inconvenience and stress of watching our kids start over on the sometimes long road of making friends. Year-round calendar schools work for our area of Wake County. There's been overwhelming support by our community time and time again asking for Buckhorn Creek to open as a year-round school. Holly Springs is a rapidly growing area full of active professionals and families who prefer the schedule that a year-round calendar offers. Instead of placing our kids in 3 months of camps during the summer, we enjoy frequent breaks to recharge and re-energize throughout the year. Also, according to the National Education Association, shorter time away from school increases retention rates and is a more efficient use of school space. We've heard that Buckhorn Creek may not be ready in time to open as a year-round school. Let's work together to build a modified multi-track schedule for a year to make it work. Shorten the track outs of the first year to 2 weeks instead of 3, or utilize another school. There are options. As I sat and watched the discussion today, I was so disappointed in the leaders chosen to represent our kids and families. I teach my kids to do what's right, not what's easy. The board that sits before me is taking the easy way, not the right way.
Kelly Markham and Karen Goki Alston.
Oh, Kelly's not here. That's right. Sorry. I knew that. Okay. Kelly couldn't make it. So I'm a little OCD, and I even made a PowerPoint today and then printed it out. I know that you're into statistics, Mr. Martin, so I just want you to see these are the statistics we're talking about, my 2 adorable children. My name is Karen Goki Austin. I'm representing the Spring Hill subdivision. We're a small but very spunky subdivision on the border of Holly Springs and Fuquay. Just for reference, our neighborhood has been assigned to Herbert Aiken since it opened. We've been year-round. We feed into another year-round middle school. What you're proposing with your third draft is to actually move us over to Lincoln Heights, which is a traditional school. I heard in your session today that you didn't hear a lot of feedback from parents after your first draft. I never got an email because I wasn't impacted by the first draft. Honestly, I'm not impacted by Buckhorn. I'm impacted by you changing a lot of other assignments while you're also adjusting Buckhorn. Excuse me. So the reason why you didn't hear from our subdivision after draft 1 is because it didn't impact us. Draft 2 and 3 is where the impact came in for us. And since then, trust me, we've been very engaged. So a lot of you were quoted in the News and Observer about Lincoln Heights, where you're trying to send us. Talking about the failing performance at Lincoln Heights, it used the words below average, poorest, and most segregated, and fewer than half are proficient in math and science despite being a STEM school. So your comments earlier about low-achieving schools or poorer schools have higher achieving students is actually not correct based on some of your own words. When questioned about imbalances in schools, Mr. Sutton said, moving children to other schools shouldn't be the only option, and I agree. But yet, here we are, and that seems to be exactly what's happening. In an effort to be transparent, let's all agree that you're making this change for our neighborhood to increase the scores for Lincoln Heights and not to benefit our children. And now you're backing us into a corner. I have a child who was just recently diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia, or as you guys call it, specific learning disabilities in written expression and in reading. She is above average in intelligence, but she's hanging on as best she can with the rest of her students. But you're about to send her to a very low achieving school. So I pulled up the EOG rates. The difference between Herbert Aiken and Lincoln Heights for EOGs is 74% versus 49%. Again, beautiful daughter. English and language arts is going to be her lowest area. And Herbert Aiken, 62%. You're going to send her to Lincoln Heights with only 27%. So the statistics show that you're setting my daughter up for failure, basically, with the reassignment to Lincoln Heights. She's going to struggle to get the resources she needs and achieve everything that she can. Our neighborhood has been at Herbert Aiken since it began. There are 2 closer schools to our neighborhood than Lincoln Heights, and yet you're taking people from across town and moving them to our slot at Herbert Aikens.
Brandon Balsley and Shelley Lamont.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Merrill. To start off, to turn a phrase by closely associated with U.S. House of Representative Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, all politics are local. Same can be said with school assignments. I appreciate the enormity of the tasks you guys have been handed the past few months. I also appreciate the value of Wake County schools and the amount of power we gain for our students by having a large community such as this one. My children, I have 3, will be invested in this school and in this decision for the next 9 years, let alone any other scheduling that may go on. I'm here to voice my concern about opening Buckhorn Creek as a traditional school versus a year-round. This afternoon, as you've heard numerous times, you cited 84% of those students are coming from current year-round schools. There's no guarantee that we're going to be able to apply to get back to our current school where we currently hold a seat. Which is a bit of a challenge. My family has already gone through an application process when we relocated to Holly Springs, and it was not easy. So much we had to drive 30 miles to North Raleigh to deliver our child to school because all the schools were capped and the application process was just not clear. Furthermore, today, I heard your discussion. It took you about 15 to 17 minutes to discuss that application process. You guys are the experts on that. We are not. And so if you can imagine, that 84% population base, trying to have a discussion around how that's going to work is very difficult to imagine. In your previous meetings, you cited obstacles, scheduling issues, contractor negotiations. I appreciate that. I work in business intelligence. We do a lot of corporate real estate transactions. I'd also like you to consider the population and the parents that have to go through that as well. Think about the schedule that we have to go through. The community feedback that you've cited, again, is not relevant. This population in Holly Springs has grown 10,000 residents in the past 5 to 7 years, depending on which statistic you look at. The community here tonight before you are asking for Buckhorn Creek to be open as year-round. So I'm asking that you all pay attention to the community here and in front of you. Notice we're all in red. And I'm asking you guys to look at the hard right choice. It's a phrase we use in our house quite often, not the easy wrong, okay? To circle back to a point earlier today, again, working in business intelligence, I like data. I'm a little concerned. Our children are not an experiment, and they're not a linear regression. They are a community. I'm asking, as part of this community, for you to consider with your vote to open Buckhorn Creek as year-round. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shelley Lamon, a Wake County resident since 1982 and a proud product of the Wake County Public School System. I have seen firsthand the explosive growth here in Wake County, especially Western Wake and Apex, where my husband and I have owned our home in Scotts Mill since 1999. However, in the proposed assignment plan, there's a sweeping change that requires all students whose base school is Scotts Ridge to move to Salem Elementary as their year-round option school. Requiring this sweeping change is too broad for the families affected, and for those of us in Scotts Mill who choose year-round, it's in direct conflict with all the 4 pillars of student assignment. For one, proximity. From Scotts Mill, Olive Chapel is a 3-minute drive, while driving to Salem Elementary is a 12-minute drive, and this is according to Google Maps when there's no traffic. Families in Scotts Mill will actually drive past Olive Chapel on their way to Salem Elementary. So I think it's pretty clear that the pillar of proximity is not met. Stability. Scotts Mill neighborhood has been assigned in one form or another to Olive Chapel for over 18 years. Since we've opened our home. It's the families in that neighborhood that have helped build such a strong school and such a strong PTA. Olive Chapel as our year-round option is a major factor when families choose to stay in Scotts Mill or move into Scotts Mill. As our family's grown, we have actually added on to our house twice in order to stay in Scotts Mill, and it's the year-round option of Olive Chapel that's been our #1 determining factor for that. Not giving Scotts Mill families the option to attend Olive Chapel as the year-round disrupts over 18 years of stability. Student achievement. An automatic transfer to Salem Elementary is ultimately detrimental to the high achievement levels and engagement our kids have been able to pursue at Olive Chapel. Moving children from high-performing schools to schools that are lesser so will be detrimental to their academic achievement and engagement. Families of Scotts Mill need our children to continue being academically challenged and engaged by the strength of the high achievement school they're currently attending. Efficiency. The assignment proposal states that Olive Chapel is overcrowded and that the enrollment is now capped, and this really surprises me. The purpose of year-round schools is to be able to enroll more students in the same school because the school is in operation or in constant use. I've had a child at Olive Chapel for 5 years now, and not one time has my child returned from a track out and moved to a new classroom. That indicates to me that numerous classrooms sit empty every track out at Olive Chapel. I'm convinced we can keep the Scotts Mill families who want to be in year-round at Olive Chapel. I've identified only about 10 families that are making this choice, and I'm hopeful we can find room for them at Olive Chapel. There's an abundance of new neighborhoods being built in Apex, and they're bringing families to our schools in droves. If you need to cap schools and limit class size, let it be a factor in their decision to move, rather than reassigning students and families that are already committed to their current schools and their current neighborhoods. Many of us in Scotts Mill made our choice 18 years ago. Thank you very much.
Brett Kinney and Amanda Limatainen. It's like Monica.
Good evening, Madam Chair Johnson Hostler, Vice Chair Kushner, and Board Member Mahaffey, and fellow members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Merrill. My name is Brett Kenny, and I reside at 104 Rushing Wind Way in Apex in the Scottsmilk community. My neighbor talked about the year-round option. I'm going to talk a little bit about the traditional option. My wife and I, we have 2 daughters, June, who's 6 years old, and she's a first grader at Scotts Ridge Elementary, and Sophie, who's 4. She'll start kindergarten in 2 more years. I grew up in Fairfax County, Virginia, and I worked as a chief of staff to a local elected official up there for over 12 years. In Fairfax, like Wake, we saw explosive growth happen, and it severely challenged the resources of the county and the school board to keep pace with demands for services and for new schools. Having spent over a decade in local government politics, I know that shortly after the joys of having new schools open up, you've got the controversy of school redistricting and having folks come here and testify to you guys. There's some active members in Scottsmilk. They created a social media page to advise us as to what was happening. We have 500 single-family homes in our community and 184 townhomes. They informed us about the enrollment proposal and the proposed change to have our kids go from Apex Friendship Middle School to Apex Middle School. After reviewing the documents, I took the initiative, created a petition, which is now 260 members of our community, that asked that you kind of put us back to where we were and have Scottsmilk kids go to Apex Friendship Middle School. The reason's really simple. Apex Middle School, it's a great school, but it's overcrowded. Next school year, it's going to be utilized at 110% with trailers, and the year after that, it's going to be 113% in the 2020 to 2021 school year. By comparison, when you open up Apex Friendship Middle School, it's only going to be a 54% utilization. It makes sense to ease the burden on Apex Middle School and have the children of Scottsmilk attend Apex Friendship Middle School, the school we had previously been assigned to prior to this enrollment proposal. Additionally, it will align our community with our high school, which is, as of today, Apex Friendship High School. I think it makes sense because as more homes are built and occupied in Western Apex, and as Apex Friendship reaches a higher utilization percentage, then the Board of Education really consider making changes to the attendance areas as you have more precise data. As the school starts to fill up, new subdivisions come on board. By lowering the number of children in Apex Middle School, you can help increase student achievement, reduce the wear and tear on that facility, and most importantly, you can be responsive to the requests of your constituents. And thank you for hearing my testimony, and thank you for your service to our community.
Hi. I have notes on my mobile. My name is Amanda Limatainen. I've been a resident of Holly Springs in the Powell Farm subdivision for 13 years. I'd like to thank Ms. Kushner and Mr. Fletcher for acknowledging my email earlier this week and my request to align communities over calendars and to scrap draft 3. I have a rising 4th grader at Holly Grove Elementary School and a rising 8th grader at Holly Grove Middle School. At this point in time, my elementary school student will be aligned to Buckhorn Creek Elementary School. Like many parents, I thought that Buckhorn Creek would be opening for the growth of the community, not as a calendar change or a disruption to our students enrolled in year-round schools. I did know that it would be a traditional calendar, but not that my base school would be shifted in calendar until after September 19th. I attended both the parent meeting on October 6th and the community feedback session on November 13th. I've also provided feedback and suggestions via the parent forum online. I've signed the petition for opening Buckhorn Creek as a year-round calendar school, which to date, at this moment, has 724 signatures. I'm here to request again that you offer solutions that fit our community. First, we were told that all elementary schools in Wake County will be opened as traditional calendar because that's what Wake County wants. I don't believe that this is what our community wants. Mr. Martin references requests from 2013 to open traditional calendar schools. I've lived in Holly Springs for 13 schools and for 13 years, and in Wake County for 15 years, and I've never once been asked what my preference is. My neighbors and my community haven't been asked. And I'm certainly not under the impression that a community in another part of Wake County wishes to choose the school schedule for my children, nor do I wish to choose the school calendar for their children. For example, Knightdale. The Holly Springs community needs to be asked what they want for their students. Second, we were told that Buckhorn Creek could not open on time as a year-round calendar. This community of caring parents has offered multiple solutions to this issue, including use of Holly Springs High School empty space right down the road for the tracks that opened prior to that, giving up pieces of our track out temporarily to allow for a year-round calendar, utilizing trailers, adding a traditional calendar track to a year-round school, keeping students in their current year-round school until opening, and even more. If Buckhorn Creek opens its traditional calendar, then I implore you to allow Holly Grove Elementary families, Herbert Akins, Holly Springs, that are all year-round, to remain in their year-round schools, grandfathered with no application required. Allow those people that want the traditional calendar school, Mr. Martin, to apply to the traditional calendar school, to be moved from my school to go there. I believe that we can make this work for our community if the community has a choice and a voice. And I wanted to leave you with, Mr. Fletcher quoted earlier, all fear is toxic to the energy of achievement. Wake County Public School System should not be afraid to open schools in the community based on what my community wants.
Jeremy Merrill and Holly Alberts.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'd like to start off by stating something that happens quite often, or a phrase we use quite often in work. Lack of planning on your part doesn't result in an emergency on ours. This entire process could have been avoided if feedback was heard from the October 6th session. With that being said, I was shocked to hear the statement during the working session today that we were late with feedback. In that first session on October 6th, Glenn did ask the question, who here wanted year-round? Pretty much the entire room raised their hand. So nobody was late to this game except for the board listening to our feedback. Was that feedback missed, or was it just not passed along to you folks? It was also mentioned that in 2013, traditional calendar was preferred. First, working off old information is a disservice to the families. And second, since 2013, Holly Springs has probably grown by over 8,000 people. If you're currently filling Buckhorn Creek with 84% of students that are currently residing in year-round school, how does that make any sense? Make Buckhorn Creek year-round and give families the option to stay on traditional if that's what they really want. That's much less impactful to those 84% of the families and keeping their students aligned with what they're used to. Now, to be a little bit more selfish, I'd at least like to see the subdivision that I represent, Garrison, stay at Holly Grove. We currently have a walkway that has been deemed unsafe. However, our HOA has emails with Betty Parker from the Wake County Public Schools Real Estate Department, our HOA, as well as the town of Holly Springs, expressing their desire to finish the walkway to those schools. Why would they encourage a walkway that is deemed unsafe? In the end, this isn't a hard decision. We need to do what we can to open Buckhorn Creek as a year-round school. If you must open it as a single-track year-round school for the first year, I guarantee you will have the support of all the families here today, plus those that couldn't make it because this meeting is before Thanksgiving. This was made abundantly clear on November 13th. You were offered many options in that meeting at the high school to achieve this. It was also stated during the work session about families not wanting to switch tracks after the first year, and that could be a problem. Is that really true? Have you guys asked that question to these families? I know I wasn't, and as a parent of a Track 1 middle schooler, we'd be more than happy to have our rising second grader go to track 4 for 1 year, and then back the following year to track 1 to align with her sibling. As a reminder, you are up there to represent us, not yourself. The overwhelming request in this room is to open Buckhorn as a year-round. Saying it's too hard is not a valid reason. Should we also tell our children if something is too hard, they should just go ahead and give up?
Hello, my name is Holly Alberts, and my son started as a first grader the year Abbott's Creek opened as his traditional calendar option, and he's now a thriving third grader. Due to the class size mandate, he is one of approximately 77 children from his school slated for reassignment. A group of parents have met several times with our principal, members of the school board, and the Office of Student Assignment to try to find a way to help let these kiddos stay at Abbott's Creek. Unfortunately, after poring over class sizes and space and floor plans, it just wasn't going to work out it would be a detriment to the whole community if all 77 children were allowed to stay. A new school for my son next year will be his third elementary school, as he came to Abbott the year it opened, was somewhere else for kindergarten, and now for his fourth grade year will be at a third school. So since all 77 of the children who are slated for reassignment are to leave, I asked for you to consider allowing some of the children to stay at Abbott's Creek. If everyone can't stay, can we maybe ask for the fourth graders to stay? Just coming down, I know those fifth graders can stay. Can then maybe those fourth graders stay? Is there a way to make that happen, to provide stability for these older elementary students? To speak to the class size mandate, I have sent many emails and met with one of my elected senators to convey concerns with the class size mandate. I've been told verbally and in writing that the mandate will not be discussed until May, which, as you know, puts a huge burden on all of the school districts in North Carolina to hire teachers and reassign students. I will continue to call and email the elected officials of North Carolina as I am my child's best advocate. I hope the school board is also able to continue pressing the legislature for action. Thank you.
Megan Dixon and Matthew McClellan.
Good evening and happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody has big plans tomorrow. You all want to go home and get started. I know I do. My husband's at home with my 3 kids. I don't know what I'm going home to, but I'm here tonight because this is very important to them and me. I have 3 children. My oldest son has been at Herbert Akins Elementary School since kindergarten. We moved a year ago, and when we were moving, I told our realtor, the number one thing for us is a year-round school. Doesn't have to be Herbert Akins, but it has to be year-round because that's what my child needs. That's how he learns best. We ended up in the Spring Hill subdivision. We love it. We love the school. We love the community. When Draft 1 came out, we faithfully put in our address checker and dodged that bullet. So sorry, everyone else. Then came Draft 2, and I heard that so many parents were unhappy with misaligned calendars that they had worked to realign the calendars. Because of that, someone else's misalignment caused ours. I understand not everyone can be happy, but you don't know how frustrating it is, or maybe you do, maybe you've experienced this, to go from everything being right to someone else's problem causing yours. Theirs got fixed, mine didn't. This is our subdivision. I don't know if you can see us here. This little arrow to this little purple subdivision. We got moved to Lincoln Heights, and I don't have a problem with Lincoln Heights. I have nothing personal against that school, except it's not year-round, and my child needs year-round. My other problem is our middle school is still Holly Grove. Holly Grove is year-round. I have 3 children. That means that for the rest of my child's education, I will be shuffling between year-round and traditional all the time. Our schedules will never align. By the time one's into high school, the other one will be in middle school, and the other one will be in elementary school, and it's never going to stop. You talk about stability. I want stability for my children too, and I would love to see a grandfathering option. If Buckhorn Creek is year-round, I think that would be fantastic. That greatly increases our chance of getting into a year-round school because applications are hard. I don't know a single person who has had a successful application. Not one, and I work at a daycare. I talk to parents nonstop, all day long. I don't know why my school got changed. When I talked to student assignment, they said someone must have requested it for you to get changed from Draft 1 to Draft 3. No one in my neighborhood, and we have a very active neighborhood, has said that they suggested that. All I'm hearing is upset and frustration. I do want to address one thing that I heard today in the meeting that I was streaming. I appreciate that you let us listen to that meeting. I found that very educational, and that is someone who said, year-round schools don't have a sense of community because you're on different tracks. Well, my neighborhood is on different tracks, and I don't care if they're track 2 or track 3 or track 4 or track 1. 3 of those tracks are in at once, and they do engage, and they are friends. It does not stop the community. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
that, so I'm not sure how I'm going to follow all the folks from Holly Springs. You are doing awesome. So again, I'm here to talk to you about the Brooks and Green reassignment, adding 100 kids to Brooks Elementary from Green. And again, instead of being with my family on my way home for Thanksgiving, I'm here with you folks. So I want to start off talking about policy of not notifying folks that are not affected in terms of moving schools. That policy has to change. Everybody is affected if you move kids into a school or out of a school. Everyone gets affected. Dr. Martin, you talked about listening is a long process. You're right. It came to light in some of the communications we've had with the board that this plan to move Green and Brooks has been a 2-year plan. Prior to the school being torn down and rebuilt, 2-year process. Why were we not included? 2 years of communication and conversation could have actually helped us make a better plan on how to make this an actual move that would have worked for both the incoming students as well as our students that are already at Brooks. Next, I want to talk to you about your pillars of student enrollment. There's the achievement, the stability, proximity, and operational efficiency. How in the world is stability a core tenet if you're constantly moving kids around? One lady talks about her kid being in 3 different schools in elementary school. That's insane. How can you constantly be moving kids around and offer any kind of stability? I sent every one of you articles, studies that are from Notre Dame, PACE, multiple institutions about how stability impacts the efficiency or the achievement of children. Mr. Fletcher, you talked about fear being an issue and hurting the ability of children. What is more fearful than going to a new school where you have no friends, no ability to understand what the concepts are? You may be left behind from the previous school. There's tons of issues around that, and I'll send every one of you links with, directly to those studies. Now, actually, the most important thing is the students. 100 kids being moved from Green, 600 plus kids at Brooks currently. We're looking at an already overpopulated school, adding 100 in. The math just doesn't work. Dr. Martin, you talked about being a data person. I actually had a conversation over email with Mr. Fletcher, Ms. Kushner today, and the example I gave is if I have 120 ounces of water and I try to pour it into a 100-ounce container, I've got a giant mess with my hands. And my principles or my bedrock principles around diversity and moving kids around will not clean up my mess. I'll still have too much volume for the container I've been given. So the basic math just doesn't work. The stability is not there. You need to reconsider moving these kids from Green to Brooks.
Leanne Troutman and Tara Mueller.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Troutman, and I'm from the Scotts Mill subdivision in Apex. So being a teacher, I brought with you pictures to show you where our subdivision is located. You can follow along. To that one. There's a couple of them to pass around if you want to see them. Does he want them? I have been to all the other open forums talking about facts, figures, and zones. All that got us was our clubhouse and our playground into the Apex Friendship Middle School zone. So tonight, I thought I'd talk to you about our subdivision and what it's like to be a middle schooler, and see if we can get the rest of our subdivision into the Apex Middle School zone. Our subdivision, Scotts Mill, has been around 20 plus years. I have been there 17 of those years. Our neighborhood has been redistricted 8 out of the last 10 times. Each time, a new school, new friends to make, new everything. It has been hard, but our neighborhood has always put our big girl panties on and dealt with it. We wholeheartedly supported our new schools, made new friends, and volunteered, knowing that with growth comes change. But you know what? We're getting tired of being the neighborhood that always changes. 3 years ago, Scotts Ridge Elementary was being built across the street from us. At the time, our neighborhood was at the year-round option, Olive Chapel Elementary. There were meetings, tours of Scotts Ridge Elementary, and excitement by some about going traditional, while the rest of us were happy with our year-round option. Then the hammer came down. Olive Chapel was lowering their enrollment and capping it. We were not welcome there anymore. We were told that Scotts Ridge Elementary was our only choice. We were forced out, but promises were told of stability going forward, and that our school, Scotts Ridge Elementary, would be a feeder school to Friendship Middle and Friendship High School. Guess what? That was only a half-truth. Our high schoolers are over there, but our middle schoolers are not. Our middle schools are going to Apex Middle. By the way, right after we moved to Scotts Ridge Elementary, Olive Chapel, uncapped, opened up, and went completely back to the number they had originally without us. Now I want to talk about middle schoolers. I am a middle school youth director of 50 to 100 middle school youths. Let me tell you, they are a breed of their own, alien in fact, but not just to us, but to themselves. They are happy, sad, angry, scared, bitter, confused, and that is all in a 5-minute time span. They stink. Their bodies are changing, which they fear, they have guilt about, and they plain just don't know what to do. In multiple studies, it is determined that middle school is now the hardest age of development. The parents are less and less a component in life decisions, and friendships are more. They need their friends. They need their peers. Tear them away from them, and life gets harder. Let me give you an extreme example. This past weekend, I had the pleasure and sadness to plan a celebration of the life of a teenager who chose to end his life. He was from a military family and recently moved away from his peers. Can I finish my story? No. Okay. Thank you.
One sentence, it's just that if everybody keeps doing it, goes on and on and on.
You guys talking about someone's life. Please.
Yes. Can you give it to our attorney and then we'll get it?
10 minutes or 10 seconds to do it. Can I take 10 seconds?
Please just let her finish.
Excuse
It's
me?
not someone's life. She's. Just say it. Say it right now. We're listening.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So he was from a military family and recently moved away from here and from a large group of friends and peers. We don't know what was going on in his head or why he made the choice. But when 100 teenagers show up to celebrate his life, you know that friendships are important. I heard these kids talk, and a few things that kept coming up again and again is we lost touch. It was hard to keep in touch when he wasn't with us every day. Peers are important. Middle school peers are extremely important. Please don't rip our kids away from their classmates and peers again. Please keep our classmates at Scotts Ridge and pick them on to Apex Friendship Middle with the rest of their class. Life is hard. Don't make it harder for our kids. Thank you for your time.
It's all about listening.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Tara Muller, and I have 3 students at Brooks Elementary. I was here talking to you at the last board meeting about the issue of bringing in 100 new students to the Brooks Elementary base population. And I will not repeat my concerns here again tonight, but I would like to address the issue of notice to Brooks families. Brooks parents were not notified about the relevant portion of this plan at all, not in draft 1 and not in draft 2 and not in draft 3. I understand that that's protocol because the people who get notified are the ones who are asked to move, not the ones who are whose children are being moved into the school. Luckily, some folks in our school community stumbled across it accidentally in late October, and since then, we have been researching the proposal as quickly as we can. We've met with our board rep, who's kindly been very generous with her time. We've emailed the board members. We've attended the meetings. We even spoke at the last meeting. We have many families who have gone above and beyond to get up to speed as quickly as possible and in hopes of collaborating with you as a team to let you know about our concerns about this plan. We, in the process of researching this, have created 3 very detailed, very carefully thought out plans that we've sent to all of you, both through email and in the forum. All 3 of those plans meet the Wake County goals of equity and stability without overburdening the population at Brooks. Only 4 days ago, unfortunately, we learned through student assignment that the board has been working on this change for years, and that the plan at this point is virtually non-negotiable. We also received notice that Green Road Elementary has already made plans to use the extra space that it will get under this plan. We are hoping that we were misinformed about that. We're hoping that this draft assignment plan is actually still a draft and is a work in progress so that you all can consider our concerns. Brooks families have made it clear that they care about this overcrowding issue. Since you set up the forum for us 18 days ago, we've had more than 70 families comment. If it's true that the decision has already been made, then we question why the proposal is being called a draft at all. By asking for public comments, by setting up an online forum, by inviting all these families to come and meet with you and discuss our concerns, we have had hope that you have been listening to us. We understand that a change of course this late in the game might be inconvenient and even costly to the school system, but we respectfully ask you to reconsider our proposals. Thank you.
Stacy Alvarez, Matt Cunningham.
Hi, I am the lone person in my neighborhood. I live in Avon Acres in Holly Springs. Currently, my assigned middle school is Holly Grove. I attended this meeting in October to learn that my middle school for my children will be Friendship Middle. And I don't see why Avon Acres, I don't know if it's a swing neighborhood or what. We're not a very big neighborhood, but we need to be considered because we are 3 minutes from Holly Grove, and then we have to travel to Friendship Middle. Now, once we're at Friendship Middle, we have to come back to Holly Springs High School. So you have middle schoolers meeting new people, learning themselves, being who they are, to uproot them from an elementary school which we attend and their friends that they see every day, to going to a different middle school. So those kids they'll never see again, possibly, but then the friendships could also be different at that time also. They're growing at different rates. They will not be together. So then they meet new children and peers in Friendship Middle. To have that 3 years, hopefully if they can stay together that long, to then be uprooted and changed again to Holly Springs High School instead of continuing on, whether if it's to Friendship High School or to stay at Holly Grove to go to Holly Springs High School. It's not fair to them as students. As a parent, it is what it is. But my kids, I can only speak for my kids. And I can speak as a parent that middle school is hard. I don't know if any of you had issues or problems in middle school, but I did. And to know that my children have that possibility scares me. And to uproot them from people that they know, to go to middle school, to go back to high school, it's too much. And it's not fair to them. So please consider Avon Acres. I haven't heard. I applaud them. I applaud everybody who comes out in droves. I am my only person for my neighborhood, and I don't know what else to do. So here I am speaking. I knew I would cry because that's just who I am. But my kids are my importance, and they need to know that I am here for them, and that they need to stay at Holly Grove, to go be there with their friends that they know in elementary school, and to go there with them, and to go on and continue on to Holly Springs High School. Otherwise, if you're gonna put us to Friendship Middle, if there is no choice, then put me at Friendship High School so they can continue on with their friends. Thank you.
believe you said Matt Cunningham's next. If so, that's me. If not, I'm whoever you said was next. Good evening again. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is still Matt Cunningham, and I'm still a parent of 2 Brooks students. That has not changed in the last 2 weeks, thankfully. Tara Muller has said a lot of what I want to say, and she said it better. So I'm going to try and shorten it up just a little bit. 2 weeks ago, we appeared before you to oppose the transfer of approximately 100 students from Greens Base to ours, not because of who they were, but because of the number of children involved. By way of summary, the information which we based our opposition on was, number 1, a table on page 33 of draft number 1 of the 2018-2019 student assigned plan. Number 2, see number 1. That was it. That was all the publicly available information in written form that we had. Now, I will say that made it easy to oppose this plan. I've since been informed that it's the public school system's current policy not to provide notice of an assignment change to parents at schools receiving assigned students, even when it will increase those schools beyond capacity. I don't mean to get into this and sound like a technical policy wonk, but in technical terms, that policy is just the worst. I understand that the board and the school, I do understand the board and the school system are working together to review the public notification criteria, and if so, I'm hopeful that they will look at this situation in particular, because I think this is not a people problem. I think this is a policy problem. I give all the credit in the world to Vice Chair Kushner and to the Director of the Office of Student Assignment, Glenn Carroza, or is it Carraza? I'm sorry, Glenn, for their availability, empathy, willingness to talk with us or me, and feedback over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, 2 weeks is not long enough of a process to receive information and give informed consent, particularly when the only information provided is of such a limited nature. I guess what I'm trying to say at the end of the day is that when there is no process for us to provide you informed feedback, for you to make the decisions that should be long listened to avoid fear, when there is no process in place, the only feedback I can give you is to adopt the process and apply it to us. Thank you.
Heather Evans, Amy McGovern.
Good evening. My name is Heather Evans, and I live in Sunset Ridge in Holly Springs. And I was heartened to see yesterday that the staff is recommending to not proceed with switching our base school of Holly Ridge Middle to Holly Grove. But as the vote has not yet happened, I hope you'll give me a minute to voice my support of that recommendation to leave Sunset Ridge as it is, with Holly Ridge Middle as the base school. I have 3 children, one in high school, one in middle school, and one in elementary school. And currently my middle daughter attends Holly Ridge. She's able to walk there from my house with her friends. They enjoy walking back and forth to school with each other. They enjoy the freedom of being able to stop at each other's houses, of going to the local pizza shop, of the freedom that it gives them at that age, that they can do something a little grown up. But under draft 3 proposal, they would instead be put on a bus for what would be a minimum a half-hour bus ride to Holly Grove, and that would be basically door to door, which isn't what happens on a bus ride, and have to attend Holly Grove Middle on the other side of town. Besides disrupting the sense of community that we get from our children being able to walk back and forth to school, busing our children to Holly Grove and concurrently busing kids from the other side of town over to Holly Ridge Middle will increase traffic in an already congested area and increase the transportation costs for the school system. We have been told that the board considered this option in an effort to align calendars. However, our neighborhood has a large percentage of high school students, so switching us to a year-round middle school will only misalign us, as high school is on a traditional calendar. Admittedly, there are many of us with elementary-age children, but we knew when we bought our house that our base school was year-round. Accordingly, we decided that either we were fine with the misalignment Or, as in my case and many others, we have already switched our younger children to traditional calendar option. So once again, switching our middle school children to year-round will actually cause a misalignment in our families. So this situation highlights the point that alignment cannot be the only issue considered when assigning children to schools. Stability is important, and sometimes that means that you open a school that is on the calendar system that most people already attend. And sometimes it means that you leave the misalignment alone because we've been living with it for years and are fine with it. Proximity is important. It builds sense of communities, and communities are important, Mr. Martin. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Amy McGovern, and I have a rising kindergartner. So he'll be joining Holly Springs School next year. There are, at least by my count, 12 kids from our neighborhood who will be rising kindergartners. And we are not invested in the school system yet. I am a big proponent of public education and served on as an elected member of a school board for 6 years. I built schools, I placed kids, I dealt with funding, and I dealt with scandals. And it's not easy. But I'll tell you, being an advocate for my child over the past couple of weeks has been way more stressful and has been very, very difficult. To the point where we're questioning our first impression with you. Our son will be with you for the next 12 years. Do we want our son to be with you? I'm not sure. So over the past couple of weeks, we've actually been looking at other options, which is heartbreaking for me because I've always felt that every child deserves to have a solid education that's a public education. But my first impression is not a valid one, is not a good one. When we first moved to Holly Springs in 2011, I was introduced with year-round schools, and I said, well, this is kind of odd. But then I looked at the kids in my neighborhood, and they were thriving. They were kind. They were great, and they really did well academically with having the short breaks. And I said, wow, this is really novel. This is great. So then a few years later, I have a son, and it's just assumed, I guess, and maybe that's a fault on my part, that he would be going to year-round schools. Now, I've emailed you, I've posted on the discussion board, but I haven't necessarily said why. One of the main reasons I want him to go there is that he has an immune deficiency. And Wake County Public Schools has a pretty loose vaccine policy where people can request religious exemptions from vaccines. Herd immunity is very important to my son because he can get very sick very, very quickly. So going to a year-round school, they're in school during the summer. So they're not, the traditional calendar is flu season and cold season. It would give him an opportunity to be in school and be thriving when there weren't necessarily that many germs around. Additionally, he sees lots of specialists. So we have to go up to Duke every 3 months to see different specialists. It's stressful to book appointments, and you don't have an opportunity to be able to really negotiate and pick an appointment that works for you. So I'm worried about him getting sick, and I'm worried about having to pull him out of school when there's for doctor's appointments. And a year-round calendar would give me little windows where I could schedule appointments and hope that he wouldn't be missing school. So he's going to be zoned for Buckhorn Creek. We've been very vocal in trying to get Buckhorn Creek to open as year-round. We as parents understand that it would be very difficult. We've tried very hard to have our voices heard, and we just ask that you continue to read what we're posting and listen to us and try to get us to come to some sort of agreement and open as year-round. Thank you.
Joe Haynes, Giorgio Galante. Joe Haynes.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all. I had some prepared notes, and then I have some scribbled notes from some things that have been said. So I'll start with my scribbled and then try to quickly get back to my other notes. While I understand we are a county school system, different areas of the county have different needs. And to say that because we are a county school system, we cannot have neighborhood or community schools, when that's actually the choice of what that district wants, it's not listening, long-term or short-term. Dr. Martin mentioned earlier that this has been 5 years in the making, referring to Buckhorn being traditional versus year-round. Is it possible, and I think that we've kind of possibly determined that already before I've had my chance to speak, that in the 5 years it's taken to make this decision, the population and needs have changed? So my prepared remarks are, my name is Jo Haynes. I'm the mother of 5 daughters currently at Wake County Public School System, 2 at Holly Ridge Middle School, 3 at Holly Springs High School. I'm also the PTA president of the Holly Ridge Middle School, and I oppose draft 3 of your reassignment plan. We have been in the school system since my oldest began kindergarten in Holly Springs Elementary, before it was a year-round school. We've been through the dual calendar system and the application process, having both been accepted and denied at different times with different schools. We've had to deal with former school boards not thinking through their decisions for the long term and how those decisions would affect the future. Lack of planning for continued growth in Holly Springs and way too many Band-Aid solutions have brought us here. Holly Springs and surrounding areas continue to grow by leaps and bounds. We are forecasted to have an additional 20,000 people move into Holly Springs alone in the next 10 years. Where are these children going to go to school? Do you have an overall plan, or are the Band-Aids just going to continue to come? I understand it's an overwhelming thing. But when I was at Holly Springs High School the other day, Kathy Moore stated that the growth had leveled out, and that's clearly not the case. When statements like that are made, it makes us feel like you're out of touch, that you really don't know what's going on. You're all very intelligent people. Holy cow, that went fast. Okay, so 4 pillars, they're great, but I think they should have an order. I think that, Mr. Agee, I think you're brilliant with that thought. I think the rest of you are crazy if you don't consider it. Please, I don't have much time. Although I think, am I last? Oh, crap. Sorry. I'm on TV. My personal thing would be proximity, stability, student achievement, operations efficiency, and boy, I'm just going to email the rest of this to you again and again and again and again. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Good evening. My name is Giorgio Galante. I live in the Garrison community in Holly Springs. And I'd just like to say, one of the reasons that parents are so angry is that many of the assignments don't make logical sense. Like, if anybody's actually looked at the assignments, they don't make any sense. So a couple of weeks ago, I emailed the communications department and made an information request regarding how school assignments are actually done. And so I got an email back a couple of days ago with a presentation, and it stated that base attendance for new schools are generated by an optimization engine created by the Operational Research and Education Laboratory at NCSU. And apparently, I'm supposed to be impressed by the optimization engine because it's in bold and it's in green, and wow, it's a big deal, right? Unfortunately, you're dealing with data scientists, business intelligence specialists, software engineers, and we're not impressed by that, okay? We have a saying in software, garbage in, garbage out, okay? If the data that you're putting in there is incomplete, inaccurate, and has false assumptions, you're gonna get garbage assignments, okay? And clearly that's happening here. So, again, I live next door to Holly Grove Elementary and Holly Grove Middle, okay? My kids can see the school from our house, okay? It makes no sense to send our kids to Holly Ridge Elementary, bus them for 45 minutes each way every single day. So I would ask that you guys get your stuff together, okay, and fix your process, okay? Because this is not a process, it's chaos. And that is spilling over to our children and our families, so get it together.
Laura Lennon, and Michael Soto.
Good evening. We have 125 people a day move into the Triangle area. Of that, 67 are moving to Wake County alone. Where will these over 24,000 people attend school each year? Are we now shutting doors to thousands of children and just saying sorry? What are we going to tell the newcomers? We do not consider that if you live in a base school district anymore, or that families in the current base districts will not receive a seat either. We do not consider if older siblings are already attending a school like Brooks and younger ones cannot. This is the message you are sending to Wake County residents. You are also putting Brooks Museum Magnet program at risk. If Brooks loses 30% of our magnet seats to allow for 100 base students to come in, the classrooms will also be lost to provide the magnet education programs. How will this affect our school? How will it affect our magnet status? How will the performance numbers that you show so much concern about be affected, and to what end? So some numbers look pretty on paper while others are ignored. What about our children? What about a proper education? What about teachers and their ability to teach? What about the school's ability to provide a safe environment for our children? Perhaps I may help answer some of these questions. Despite having an amazing teacher and with 32 students currently in my son's classroom, sometimes 35. Why 35? That's due to one combination class. The combination students must join other fifth grade classes each day for teachings of science and social studies. How is learning effective when classrooms reach the size of 35 students? Overcrowding leads to behavioral problems and lack of learning. Teachers cannot effectively teach and students cannot effectively learn, while behavioral issues are at the forefront in the classroom instead of education. Within the first 6 weeks of this school year, my son's classroom alone, children were suspended, brand new furniture vandalized, several physical altercations took place, and the list goes on. I am disappointed with the instruction of the fourth grade level and the fifth grade so far. And I have concerns of all of the educational needs for every child in our already overcrowded school and the children that may potentially attend as well. I tire of hearing about disciplinary issues on a daily basis. Instead, I want to hear about my son's day and what he learned. I inquired how many seats are available at surrounding elementary schools that are closer to this neighborhood where these children are coming from, but I was met with silence. As citizens of Wake County, we should be provided with that information. I want to know how teachers will be able to productively teach in an overcrowded school, and will they be able to maintain discipline? If an underperforming school has issues, then roll up your sleeves and let's get to work. Find out why that school is underperforming and make the proper changes. Your 4 goals: allowing students to live for proximity, minimizing under-enrolled school and overcrowding schools. You need to please look at your own goals and realize that you're failing the students of Wake County. Thank you.
Michael Soto.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Mike Soto, and I have 2 sons that go to Brooks. Obviously, I'm here to talk about the overcrowding. I'm not here to talk about the tennis courts that we heard about last time, but I still think they should be open to the public. There's been, Ms. Martin, you've gotten a lot of grief about your comments about active listening, but I agree with everything that you said. I'd encourage this board to especially listen to it, because when I was here a couple weeks ago, there was some red, and now I look back there and it's an army of red, and I don't think they're going away. So I'd encourage you as much as possible to listen to the people. Listen to the people in Holly Springs. Listen to the folks who are here on behalf of Brooks. We care about our kids. I know you guys do too. I know you would, because you wouldn't put up with all this if you didn't. Actually, I want to talk about another group of schools that no one's talked about here today. I want to talk about the reassigning students from Willow Springs Elementary to Banks Road Elementary. What I understand is that Banks Road has recently been transitioned to being a magnet school, that there's concerns about moving students into this magnet school and because you're moving them from a higher performing school to a slightly lower performing school. And there's these concerns about moving these students into there. And Ms. Kushner, what you said was once we're able to show that the program is a strong program, those schools are going to become higher demand schools. That's on the school system to make sure that happens. That is great. I encourage the board to follow that same rule in approach to Green Elementary, because that is a new magnet program. The purpose of this magnet program is to improve these test scores. And again, what we're doing is we're not improving the individual test scores. What we're doing is by moving this underperforming population from Green to Brooks, you're just moving the problem. I was concerned before about this becoming a shell game, and then to hear that this plan's been in the process for more than 2 years when we find about it 2 weeks ago, roughly, that's not fair. That's not fair to us. That's not fair to any segment of this county who has to find out at the last minute about these changes. I'm asking you, I'm echoing the comments from the other parents from Brooks. Make the changes so that we're aware of these policies, not at the last minute. You want active listening? I'm a lawyer. I am an active talker. I will be more than happy to express my concerns with you because I'm going to keep showing up here as I have. I want you to take care of these kids, because the concern, as I said before, is that we don't want to move individual students who are having problems into a school that's about to be overcrowded. You've heard 35 kids in a 4th and 5th grade class, and we're going to add 17 kids to that grade? What are we going to do? We're literally going to be double stacking kids in a classroom to make them fit. I've been in those classrooms. They're not that big. I asked you before, I ask you again, if you're concerned about the performance of the students at Green, help them, don't hide them. Thank you.
Tom Kramer and Jamie Cermak.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm here to talk about Buckhorn, like the rest of the people in red. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Mahaffey for responding to my numerous emails and really listening to what we said over the last couple of weeks. And thank you. You're the only one that spoke up today about Buckhorn being a year-round school. I appreciate that. For the rest of the board, I don't know if it's a political decision, since most of you will be up for re-election this year, or potential re-election, but the decision to make Buckhorn a traditional school just makes absolutely no sense. And all you've provided are excuses. We haven't heard anything that could be supported. You keep citing that residents in our community want your traditional schools, but where does this data come from? If this were the case, Lincoln Heights would be busting at the seams, which it's not. If you look at the charts, it's underutilized year after year. I think you're just looking at old information. The decision to make Buckhorn is just irresponsible. I mean, Holly Grove Elementary School is a capped school already. And there are already 2,000 new homes to be built over the next 3 years right down the road on Avent Ferry. And I just heard this week there's another farm going on for sale off of Duncan Cook Road right by my neighborhood. They'll have 200 to 400 homes. So where are these students going to go? We're one of the fastest growing areas in our county, which you've cited over and over. And Buckhorn, I think, if it's a traditional, it's just going to be a capped school again in another 1 to 3 years. And I don't remember the stats, but I think 3 out of the last 5 traditional-based schools are already capped or are going to be capped. So year-round just makes sense from a fiscal and capacity standpoint. It provides the flexibility to the county. In our instance, Holly Grove Elementary, when they're capped, they can stay on the same track and move to Buckhorn Duncan or Herbert Akins. It just provides the county so much flexibility without displacing families and keeping them on the same track. You're proposing moving 84% of the new students at Buckhorn from year-round to traditional schools. That's displacing families. And as you've heard over and over, we don't care if our middle school kids are traditional year-round versus elementary school. Please just put the families ahead of your political aspirations and use a common sense approach and make Buckhorn a year-round school. They'll be fiscally responsible and allow the county flexibility in the future. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you so much for listening to all of us today. My name is Jamie Cermak, and I live in Willow Spring in the Blaylock Forest neighborhood. And my comments are mostly regarding draft 2 of the reassignment proposal. We moved here 4 months ago to Blaylock Forest specifically for Willow Springs Elementary School. I'm asking for our neighborhood to stay at Willow Springs Elementary School and not move to Banks Road. This would be keeping in alignment with the 4 pillars of student assignment. Proximity, Willow Springs is less than 3 miles away from our neighborhood, and Banks is almost 5 miles away. It increases the risk and liability when you're busing students further away from where they live. They're on the roads longer, and, you know, as we all know, traffic has the most accidents, more so than airplanes. Operational efficiency, it costs more money to bus kids further away. You need more drivers due to the additional time, and there's already a bus driver shortage. Student achievement, Willow Springs Elementary School has a high population of low-income students, and yet we burst all of the statistics with our achievement. We are ranked 52 on School Digger and 7 in great schools, and Banks is rated 254. And this is out of 1,414 schools. My daughter, Julia, is thriving at Willow Springs Elementary School. She loves it, and every day she asks me, Mommy, have they figured out, do I get to stay at my school? The teachers and the staff there are phenomenal, despite all the obstacles that they face with the overcrowding. I understand that it is an overcrowded school. 2 years from next school year starting, there is a new elementary school, South Lakes Elementary, that's going to be opening up that is going to alleviate the overcrowding at Willow Springs Elementary School. So in 2 years, we're already going to be doing an assignment, a reassignment in that area. So I ask that if you can, please wait the 2 years, because at that point, Willow Springs will not be overcrowded anymore, and we won't have to go to Banks. And then stability, kids should stay where they start. And I know the Willow Springs PTA has contacted you guys and sent their proposal to you that they want all of our kids to stay there. It's, you know, just better for kids in the long run, as many of the other parents here have said, that there's a lot of data that supports that stability in students is so important. And so I just wanted to ask that, you know, instead of us moving now, can we wait 2 years and readjust that area when the time comes? Thank you so much for your time today.
We will now move to the next item on our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent items as listed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion has it. Thank you. We'll now move to our action items. First, Board Policy 1510. Dr. Marvin Conley or Russ Smith. Thank you.
Chair Johnson Hostler, Dr. Merrill, and members of the board, I bring to you tonight for first reading revisions to Board Policy 1510. The policy revisions were reviewed and approved at the October 31st Policy Committee meeting. Staff is requesting board approval.
Dr. Martin.
On behalf of the Policy Committee, I'd like to move approval of the new policy 1510 on school safety.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Moore, Policy 4150.
Good evening, Chair Johnson Hostler, Superintendent Merrill, and board members. I'm bringing this evening for first reading Policy 4150, School Assignment and Transfers. This policy has been discussed at 2 or 3 policy committee meetings now. We've had a number of opportunities to interact and make some changes to drafts. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. We do currently have a 4150. This is replacing it and being updated. And staff is requesting approval, first reading.
Dr. Martin.
Again, on behalf of the Policy Committee, I'd like to move that we accept the revisions to Policy 4150, student assignment and transfers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is your hand raised, sorry?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's beneficial to note that a lot of these changes had to come to the board as a result of the class size legislation. So folks who have read this policy, when you see changes, many of them are in response to that.
No further discussion. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moore. We will now move to our items from closed session. First, I'll entertain a motion to approve our HR items, and Ms. Mahaffey will recuse herself.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the superintendent's recommendations for administrative appointments and other personnel recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carried. Sorry. Please note we have one nay. Thank you. The motion carries. I will now entertain a motion regarding the superintendent's leadership team contracts.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for specified leadership team contract extensions and bonuses.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. You have it, Ms. The motion carries. Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion regarding the performance bonuses and salary increases.
Madam Chair, pursuant to our review of the superintendent's performance, I would like to make a motion to approve the performance bonus and salary increase for the superintendent effective July 1, 2017, based on implementation of the contractual performance pay plan for the 2016-2017 school year.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Dr. Merrill.
Madam Chair, members of the board and the public leadership team, I've chosen to resign from the Wake County Public Schools for the purpose of retirement effective February 1st, 2018. As you may expect, I have a whirlwind of emotions about this decision. I've enjoyed beyond measure my 20-plus years serving the adults and children of Wake County. While we have made much progress and have many accomplishments to which we can point, there always is more work to be done. And I'm proud of the employees of the Wake County Public Schools who always acknowledged the challenges and did not shy away from the tough conversations and opportunities. The success of our schools also is a tribute to the support provided by our parents and community members. I believe our schools are in a good place, notwithstanding some challenges like growth, funding, and legislative mandates. We have adaptive and creative leadership at the employee and board level, and I am confident the Wake County Schools, with the continued support of our community, can meet the challenges with sincerity and great appreciation. Jim Merrill.
With similar mixed emotions, I will now ask for a motion to accept Dr. Merrill's request.
It's with great reluctance and also great admiration and appreciation for Dr. Merrill's leadership that I ask for a motion, that I make a motion to accept with great resignation his request for resignation for purposes of retirement.
And reluctantly, I will second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And I wanted to, since I totally blundered the motion, I wanted to recover a little bit. Dr. Merrill came to this school district at a time when we needed strong leadership. We needed clarity of purpose. We needed strength. and he provided that for us. And I thank him endlessly for that service to our school district, to every single child in this school district, to every teacher, every staff member. Every time we make a decision, Dr. Merrill has pointed to people, and he's pointed to relationships. And this job, as you know, is not easy. And he has been there with us, providing expert leadership, expert guidance, and I thank him for his courage, and I thank him for coming back to Wake County, and I wish him nothing but a wonderful time from here on out, and after February 1, of course, but I'm very grateful, and I thank you.
All in favor reluctantly here. The motion, please know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And very similarly to Ms. Kushner, after we close our vote, I will allow each board member to make comments. So I want to make sure you all know that we didn't close it out with your comments. The motion carries, Ms. Allen. So, as I noted, very similarly, these are mixed emotions, but at the same time recognizing that you are thoughtful, a planner for sure, never a stone left unturned. So I am clear and have great clarity that your decision to retire and enjoy your life is the right decision for you. I also recognize that you are leaving Wake County Public Schools in a place that we hoped it to be when you decided to come back here and lead the district. You understood Wake County and came with that clear commitment and purpose. And I personally, with a child in the school district, recognize that you brought to life what our community asked us for with the many open meetings at McKimmon Center, the online forums, the interviews. You absolutely, again, left no stone unturned for us to engage our community. And while engaging the community is absolutely about relationships, we also recognize that you also ensured that we understood that this was a living document. And while our strategic plan, Vision 2020, as you took off your wonderful jersey, notes, we will continue to breathe life into that strategic plan and continue to move forward and recognize that the plan is our roadmap, but not clearly the end of our destination, because this school district will be a great school district because of all of the years of service that you gave to this district, and we will continue our strategic planning, not stopping at 95%, which I know you're very clear on as well, but we'll continue that from 2020. And I do truly, truly wish you and your dear, dear wife, Libby, nothing but joy and peace, and that you absolutely enjoy your days fully. And remember that joy is very different than happiness. And so hopefully you will find nothing but joy. Mr. Sutton.
Not going to make any long speeches. We still have a couple of months before your departure, so we'll have plenty of
That's
time
a
for
party.
that. I do want to say, certainly I understand your decision. Congratulations, and excited for you. So congratulations on your pending retirement. Thank you for your service. And we'll take on the rest of the stuff later.
I'd like to add my thanks and congratulations, Jim. A long career in public education, many of those years here in Wake County Public Schools. You've done us well. It is with mixed emotions to have you move on. New leadership gives new opportunities, but I really want to thank you for laying a foundation for that new leadership and the new opportunities that are going to come. You came to us at a very challenging time. We've worked through a lot together. And I, with heartfelt thanks, can say you're a friend, not just a colleague. And I do sincerely wish you the best in your retirement. Get that sailboat up and running, and get the winds in your back.
Mr. Fletcher.
I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Merrill when he was an associate superintendent years ago, and one of the big efforts in the school district at that time was an attempt to win the Baldridge Award for education. And we had this issue at the end of June that there were thousands of unprocessed purchase orders. And he took on the responsibility with staff of charting our purchase approval process and how could we streamline it. And the process map that was drawn extended probably from this very young violin player all the way down past the door. It filled the conference room in the old building on Wake Forest Road. And the result of that was working to streamline the business processes that we operated by. Schools started getting their stuff on time. Some things they didn't have to submit a purchase order for at all. That focus and attention, I mean, that was spawned by our desire to win a Baldrige Award, and the district did win a silver Baldrige Award at that time, in large part because of what he was doing in facilities, in finance, while other people were doing similar things in academics. He brought that same focus in how do we get all of our people dedicated, committed, passionate about education to bring their talents and focus them in one direction, to take what was kind of a broad, meandering stream and to turn it into a powerful river with a common focus. That's his talent. And I appreciate it, and I have very mixed emotions. It's been a pleasure to work with you as superintendent, and it was a pleasure to work with you as an associate in the past. But as a superintendent, I know that sailboat has gone neglected for many years. I think it's still at Oriental. No? Okay. All right. But I wish you well. Godspeed. And if I'm sure I can speak for every member on this board. If there's anything you need from us, you still got our phone numbers. Thank you for your service.
Ms. Cash.
I probably will say more at the last, because it's a tough call right now. You know, he was, you were finance chair when I was finance chair in the 90s. When I was chairman, you were finance chair. You've always been there. So coming back here on the board again, it was, I was real excited that you were going to be here. So the history that you bring, I'm going to miss that. And I can't even begin to thank you for what you've done for Wake County. There's no words to say that. I didn't know about the sailboat. I'm glad you have one of those. And but I do wish you well in retirement. It's really hard for me to say goodbye to you on the board, though. But I wish you well.
Ms. Harnstein.
Dr. Merrill, I had the pleasure of working for you. You were my boss. And then lo and behold, in February, I became your boss. Yes. Should you need a consultant on how to do retirement, I'm really good at it. Except when that call comes and you kind of go back to work full time. Yeah. I am so, because I've recently experienced that transition from working full time as an educator and giving your entire career to that, to what life brings as you finish well. I have no doubt you will finish well. And I am really excited for you. It is a loss to our system, but we have a system, and I learned this when I retired. We have a system in Wake County that is made up of amazingly talented people. And you created many of those folks. You inherited some, and you've brought on board and moved some people around and created a district for us in which our board can now continue on. and be able to do the work that you planted that seed in with the strategic plan. It won't stop. We won't be forgetting where it started, and that it started with you. For your service, we are so grateful. And I am really excited for your next chapter. It will be an absolutely wonderful journey.
Ms. Mahaffey.
Well, we haven't known each other very long. So it's a little bittersweet. But I will say, having worked for several different administrators, it is very clear that you are at the top of that list. For someone to come into a community and put together a strategic plan using community input as you have, and to have a leadership team and principals, administrators, and teachers where that plan is pervasive and can be seen in the buildings as you walk through is a testament to what you have done here in Wake County. And I'm not a sailor, but I've heard there might be a puppy in your future. And I'm excited about that.
I say only, I appreciate the comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You read my mind.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.